Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lightbringers podcast for Guild Wars 2, episode 2 of season 3. Yes, it is indeed. I hope you're well and you're enjoying your life in Guild Wars 2 and just generally, because why not? Hey. We have many awesome guests. We have the whole of the team here today. So, looking forward to chatting to you about Secrets of the Skewed. We're going to be continuing our chat about our first impressions. And we will begin to talk about potentially the future things. We got to get back to the weapons we started going off on and our thoughts on what they could be in terms of new weapons. Ooh, exciting. But we're going to talk about the expansion today with our awesome guests. We have Rookery, who is back, Kroof, who is here, Fornax, who is there, Boots, who is not interrupting intros. Excellent.
I'm so good. It's because I'm currently doing an adventure while you're talking.
It's
so
interesting.
I'm concentrating very hard.
Just as Rook waved, they froze and DC'd from the call.
No.
So I'm just gonna go back to the other intro. Rook is back, but also not back.
Well, that reminds me, I should open up Twitch.
I was like, where did Rook go?
Bye. They'll be back probably.
Did Rook have a
soon.
power outage?
I hope not.
I don't know. How are we doing today, Boots? Tell us what you do, where you do it. Are you good? Tell us how you do it. Yeah.
Pretty good. I'm Boots. You could find me at World of Vendors on YouTube, where lately I've been doing, as you guys know, the adventure videos. Mm-hmm. And, I have a question about our seasons, because we're on season 3, episode 2, right?
Yes.
When we get to season 5, do we call it Icebrood Saga?
Oh my god.
Oh, Boots.
I'm never calling it that.
I think I'm gonna leave the Discord call again, so I'll see you all later.
Oh, it could be the acronym IBS, but it could be like Irritable British
Syndrome. Should I tell you, I always hated that because whenever anyone said IBS in the chat, I was like, what? Why are we talking about that?
IBS.
It's still the same feeling I have when we talk about
Can we get some IBS in the chat, fam? Can we get some IBS in the chat?
I hope we don't have any IBS in the chat. It's miserable to live through and have to deal with. You know, I hope we're having a good day. No IBS.
Oh, my family has it. It's great fun. Anyway.
Great. Good start.
It was a good start. This is exactly what we... I'm glad you asked that question about seasons, Boots. Thank you.
Jeb, do you like how for once we started on time and we didn't harass you while you tried to do the introduction, but then my Discord decided to completely explode and crashed and restarted. So
that's okay.
Even I think Discord wants us to be a hot mess up in here, which is fine with me.
I feel like I'm turning over a new leaf. I feel like, last week, or was it last week? 2 weeks ago, I think I got on your nerves a bit, so I'm going to be very good today. I'm going to be on my best behavior, a good boy.
Did you annoy Jebro?
I think a little bit. I think just a little bit.
When?
I don't know.
But like when you turn over a new leaf, it's the same leaf.
You don't annoy me.
What was that?
Maybe way back in the day when I was like, should have I included Boots in this? I don't know.
Oh,
That's a joke. No one's annoying me. Otherwise, I would just not invite you back. It's pretty easy to do that.
Yeah. Well, listen to Jebro. When Jebro and I met at the PAX West Guild Wars 2 event, Jebro gave me a big hug and then was like, I just have always wanted to tell you that you annoy me every single time you're on the podcast. And I was like, I know, Jebro. I know.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
How was it, by the way? How was PAX?
Well, why don't we do our intros first, since we were on that trail, and then we can talk about PAX if you want. There are some people in chat who maybe were there as well, and they can let us know. But Rookery, as soon as you exploded, can you explode onto the podcast with your introduction?
I really don't want to explode onto the podcast.
There's so many ways you could take that.
I'm sorry.
Get real angry.
I know we've talked a lot about syphilis and we've had a lot of good laughs on this cast, but I think I'm going to withhold from exploding all over the podcast today. And instead, I'm just going to do like a regular kind of introduction.
So many people are disappointed right now.
just like a regular and appropriate, safe for work introduction here. Hey, I'm Rook, aka Rookery. I'm wholesome and I have never had a spicy thought in my entire life.
Not
but
even about
if you,
dragons.
especially not about dragon. I'm normal about them, and I only like them an average amount. Otherwise, over on my channel, you can find me playing a lot of Guild Wars 2, as well as Final Fantasy 14. I love MMORPGs. We've been doing some Baldur's Gate 3 recently as well, because it is time, and come on, who hasn't? And if you are one that hasn't, please just get in there and do it already. Enjoy yourself. Have a good time. Baldur's Gate 3 is great. But we've been playing a lot of different stuff. You can find me over on Twitch, twitch.tv, Rookery. Spelled the exact same way. I also have a YouTube where I do playthroughs and reactions, and then I also do a lot of other stuff, including this podcast and the S03E02 radio podcast for 14. Also a lot of shoutcasting and hosting recently, which I have some big news about, even though it's not Guild Wars 2 specific. I'm gonna be in London next month on the FanFest stage casting their Crystalline Conflict Regional Championship EU and Oceania, which I am so excited about, and I can't wait. I'm gonna be over by Fornax, which I'm looking forward to. Maybe I'll just like appear.
In your
I'll
garden.
explode all over. I'll explode all over.
I'll explode all over Fornax's lawn. That's a bit...
Invitation rescinded. Invitation rescinded.
No.
Oh, well.
I'm sorry. I'll behave normally, inappropriately.
Wait, what? Normally is inappropriate, isn't it? Like that is literally a requirement for this podcast. You have to be inappropriate in a respectful, consenting way.
Sure, of course.
Awesome news. We're excited. We're gonna watch. We're gonna watch, and we're gonna be excited. It's weird that I'm not in London, where you're going to London, and we met in PAX West at Seattle. So there's that.
I know. I got a lot of good Jebro hugs. That's really the only last thing. Got a lot of good Jebro hugs this past weekend, and that was great. So
it was good times. We'll talk about it.
Lucky.
It was lovely. It was really nice to see people. I was kind of bummed when I left. I was like, oh man, I want to hang out with these people more.
Me too.
More soon in the future. Kroof, tell us what you do, where you do it, and how are you doing, my friend?
Hi everyone, I'm Kroof. I'm doing absolutely wonderful, and I've been busy working. I've had no day off really. Doing videos, doing real world work. But when it comes to videos, you can find me over on YouTube. I'm doing quite a few new builds, talking about the different weapon masteries and, you know, combining weapons with certain elite specializations that you weren't able to before, like the Great Sword Power Harbinger build, which I'm actually really enjoying. And those are just coming out for every profession, so you can go check those out. And I'm also streaming here on Twitch during the weekends, doing some giveaways, playing through Secrets of the Obscure, doing all the stuff. And still equally as annoying as always, so come check me out. You can subscribe, like, and comment or not. It's your own discretion, but thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Amazing. Yes, I've been watching some of your videos as well. They've been great, so make sure you go and check those out. Everyone has a link in the description below. You can go to their Twitch or YouTube, whatever they choose to put in the description. Probably for Kroof, I would say it's your YouTube, I think, but you can do Kroof Guild GW2 and you'll find them, as well as World of Enders, Rookery, and Fornax, or the Crown Herald. Crown Herald, hello, how are you?
Hello.
I hope you're good.
I'm very well, thank you.
Tell us what you're doing.
Thank you for allowing me back on again.
You are immortalized. I was going to use the wrong word. In the graphic arts work we have on the podcast, so you don't actually have a choice. You have to come.
Yeah, this is true. Actually obligated now. Yeah, yes.
Because it's way too much effort
to get. We get paid in internet cookies.
Yeah, I don't want to get Gears to do that. Gears is just going to be like, I don't want to bother him, you know. So like, I was like, Fornax is going to be here forever. They actually surprised me with that, to be fair. So that was very nice. Well, they surprised me with that.
Much appreciated.
Yeah,
beautiful art. Beautiful art. Yeah.
Gears is ridiculous.
My God. Absolutely. I'm Fornax. I'm the Crichton Herald. I make content over on YouTube occasionally. I'm actually working on a massive SOTO complete guide to all the loot right now, but we're still waiting for some of the items to become uncovered their acquisition process. So as soon as the last one comes available, I think there's one more to go, then the video will be going live. And I've been playing lots of video games. I have been playing Baldur's Gate 3, and I've also been playing the Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood, which is on the Switch, which is like a super cozy game, which is absolutely amazing. I highly recommend it if you're into narrative games. It's amazeballs. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. I've been stacking up content to go live when I can. And waiting to talk to you lovely people. So that's it.
Wicked. Yeah, we didn't have a show last week because we were at the Guild Wars 2 event. Make sure you go and follow Fornex All the Things. Legend. Please do that. Yes, we can talk about packs. I think that will be worthy of a conversation since it was a Guild Wars 2 event for sure. We didn't have a show last week because Rook was at PAX and I was going to the party on the Friday. Did I go to PAX? Oh yeah, I had a shift at the AFK booth. Yes, I was actually working on a booth, not a booth, but it was just a room where you go to chill if things are getting heavy and tiring and you just want a space to go and chill. I literally coloured in for like 3 hours. It was great. And chatted to random people. It's cool. And did that on Saturday as well. Rukui was there as well. You got some pictures and stuff with an Ifrit and had fun at the PAX, didn't you? Yeah.
You know what's kind of interesting? Jeb, for all that you talked about how Boots annoyed you at the start, did you let Boots do an intro?
Yes, Boots did their intro before you came back.
Okay. Oh, I was gone. Okay. All right. Just making sure here.
I can do it again now that you're back if you want.
Do you want to do it again? Want to take it one more time?
Yeah. Did I bring up the seasons when you were gone, or were you here? We were here
for the IBS.
Oh, I got the IBS joke. Yeah, I was good for that.
What else
you
was
can do
there?
it again if you want. You were talking about adventures. No, you were.
Adventures, yeah.
I'm just assuming you're talking about adventures.
Wow.
Everybody's probably talking about adventures.
It's so weird. It's so weird that I feel like now I'm the adventure guy when I felt like so long I was the build guy.
Rook, tell him the thing.
I did tell him the thing, but I want to tell him the thing now on the podcast live outside of messages. Speaking about the PAX event, while we were there, got to hang out with a lot of the wonderful devs, just incredibly kind people and so lovely, and got to have some great convos with Nick, who a lot of you probably remember from his impeccable taste in amazing shirts.
Oh my God, such a good
shirt. Incredible. From all of the ArenaNet live streams, but Nick is incredible. And while we were talking, I was saying thank you to Nick for putting a little Easter egg in for me that he put in. And then we started talking about Boot. And we were chatting about you. And we were both talking about how hype you have gotten us for adventures as a content type in the game. And like Nick was saying that he always, obviously likes them and has to do stuff with them, but that you were somebody in the content creation space that had really made him look at them in a new light as well. And that he's been following all of that content that you've been doing about them. And he confirmed that in the Wizard's Tower, at the top of it, there's a pair of boots, and those boots are a direct nod to you for your passion for adventures.
I am humbled, but I want. So it's at the end of the Wizard's Trial jumping puzzle, yeah. And I want to say that if there was ever going to be anything about me in the game, I think it's very appropriate that it's a random pair of boots, just like randomly placed somewhere. Yeah, fair enough.
And which are interactable and have a pop-up with some dialogue.
Yep.
So you get to interact with it.
We've got it. We've got it on the stream right now. Looks like someone left a pair of boots here. Best to just leave them alone.
That's the usual attitude. Just let him be.
Surprised they didn't interrupt the dialogue box.
The boots just intermittently yell during the adventure. That's it.
It's like that NPC that's halfway across the map. They're like just saying, "Oh, get on your sky scale and let's go over to the other side here." That's a fun one, which keeps popping up.
It's just so funny, like I do now think that I feel like currently I'm an adventure guy, but it's just been, like 10 years of this game doing different things in the entire time. And I felt like I guess I've been doing different stuff every time. And now I'm the adventure guy. It's pretty fun.
Like, what's your brand?
I don't know.
Your brand is adventures now.
I think.
I mean, that's like Indiana Jones, that's not a bad one to have.
That's true. I could wear a hat. Oh no, I have to wear.
you gotta wear
Indiana
boots.
boots. Indiana boots and the Last Crusade.
You can have boots with rims on them.
Your name is Boots. Why would you have a hat?
Yeah.
Boots?
Because Indiana Jones has a hat. He's a good.
No,
and a
you
whip.
could have a boot. You
And
could
a-
have a hat that is a boot.
It has like
I don't think I want to do that.
it has a hat rim around the very top of the boot, so it kind of like
Yeah.
encircles your calf.
It's got little
Just be like
boots
a-
that hang from it like corks, like an
It
Australian.
could be like
hat.
like a char-sized boots that you just wear on your head.
Yes, upside down.
I feel, you know what it is? I feel like there is a common theme in everything I've been doing in Guild Wars 2 all this time. And the common theme is finding the fun in the game. And I think, I think
I'm
that's...
glad that you
and
enjoy
it-
Guild Wars 2. Thank God.
And,
wasn't
Adventures
sure what we
is
had
like
on
pure
here.
fun, right? Adventures is
Yeah.
just pure fun. Yeah.
Adventures are good. I think that's lovely. That's great.
And by the way, the adventures in this expansion are top notch. They are like
Ooh,
Woo!
they're pretty good.
We can get.
I would
we can get there.
say-
We can get there.
Okay, all right.
We can get there.
Sorry,
We
go
can talk
ahead.
about. We should go around and play them for a stream. We could do that.
Sure.
And you could tell us how to do them and help us get on the leaderboards. And then I can stare at the leaderboard in amazement and be like, how did Boots hack this?
You know, one of the things about this in this expansion, every single one of the adventures, I have not done something shifty on. I've just played them straight up.
I'm glad that you're admitting
You-
that you're shifty.
How admirable.
Do you normally cheat? Boots? Is
Not
that what
cheat.
you're-
Not cheat. There's an item in
cheat.
game, the Petition Rewinder, the Petition Rewinder that you could buy for karma at a karma vendor.
Oh, it's not pay to win. Okay.
It's not pay to win.
From a cheat vendor, you mean?
From a cheat. His name is Cheetah McCheaterface.
That's what I thought.
and
Boots' is best friend, yes.
and it is the best item that you could buy with karma, I think, in the game. And
I
you
have
could,
not bought that item.
You've
It is
got to get
awesome.
it.
I need to get that.
Yeah.
And it's
it
super
works.
good for JPs. Please, Boots, you go ahead. You
Yeah, no, it
take
work-
it away.
So its best function is probably for jumping puzzles. But what's also good about it is that apparently it wasn't thought about when they made like some of the older adventures, so you could actually use it in those adventures and do things faster than usual.
Tips
That's
from
it.
the master. Right there.
Yeah.
It's okay. All right.
Just cheat.
It's not cheating. It's an item in the game, technically.
And you can't even buy it. You have to get it with karma, which is only earnable in game.
So yeah, I mean, you know.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, defend your cheating. It's okay. Like, go
No,
for it.
that's true.
I'm teasing you. I'm teasing you. I mean, as
mean,
I learned,
I've seen
True.
worse things. I've seen worse things on the adventures.
as I learned early on in Guild Wars 2, it's not cheating. It's a feature.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's like
That
all
was
of it. Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
other thing about the Wizard's Trial jumping puzzle, which is maybe another nod, is that you get a cloak when you go into the adventure, and the cloak basically says, to make everything fair, you're not allowed to port in this cloak. This cloak makes it so that when you port or do anything silly, you get disqualified.
Oh,
and
wow.
and yeah, the adventure
that
itself
one.
says no cheating.
That's amazing. Don't be a boots. Okay.
Yeah, don't be a boob.
Or do be a Boots and like get up on the top of all the leaderboards and
There
learn
is
all of
the-
this strats.
That's true. That's true.
And
Okay.
Get
to
yourself a
level
pair
80.
of boots in honor of yourself in the game. I mean, like, yeah, go
That's
for
true.
it.
They should add boots to the rewards.
I think it's called
I
armor.
think it's good enough. I'm happy with. I think we're good.
Yeah, but they could just be called boots as boots.
Or just even just boots with 2 T's would just be
Yeah,
really
2
good.
O's,
That
2
would have been
T's.
another legendary.
One
Yeah.
S. Is it 1S or 2? It is
But
1S.
now there's plausible deniability. Like if I go off the deep end and start doing crazy shit, they could be like, "No, these are just normal boots. Nothing to do with boots the other
Yeah.
person."
Yeah.
You're always.
Well, but here's the real thing, Boots. Has this gotten out enough that on the Wikipedia it mentions that the boots are in honor of you, Boots?
Oh, I don't think anybody on the
Well,
Wikipedia
you should go and fill that
knows
in,
anything about me,
obviously.
so
I'll
I don't
fill
think
that
that's
in.
good.
Go put that in there.
I'm not doing it.
Go put it
I'll
in
do
there.
I'm gonna do it.
I'm not doing
Yeah,
it.
let's all do it. Let's just all add a
You,
page.
I Just went and checked. You are on the wiki, Rook.
Wait, no.
Oh, me?
Oh, you're
Yeah.
right. Yeah, she's an NPC.
Of course.
Yeah, it's NPC.
Of course, she's on the wiki. She's an
You're
actual
an NPC. Well, NPB, non-playable boots.
There you go. Oh, boy.
That was very good.
That is good.
Was that like that was wit? That was very quick, Crew.
Yeah, my brain does that
Every
sometimes.
6 or 7 episodes, Crew comes up with a really good joke.
Yeah.
Boots, all that, or sorry, not Boots, Kroof, all that dumb stuff that you just toss out there all the time, all that really bad, terrible jokes, totally
At least
appropriate, awful
one of them will
garbage
stick.
dumpster fires. This one, though, this one was really witty.
I wanted
This
to
was
give
a-
you credit fully. I wanted to give you full credit as an Englishman. Like, wit,
And to be
that
fair,
was
he
good.
didn't chuckle, but he did
No.
give you credit for it.
Yes,
he didn't laugh.
Fornax was
but
laughing. Fornax would also give you credit for that. Official British.
100%. Absolutely, yeah.
It is.
Well done.
There will be an award in your name made, created, and gifted to you, mailed to your address, and it will be
Dox me.
what right now? No, we won't do that. That's okay. I will send it. Okay. So also don't forget to watch the podcast on YouTube as well if you missed the VOD. youtube.com/JebroUni. You can also go to anchor.fm/Jebro for watching the episodes or listen to the episodes. Also look at it on Spotify or any of your favorite audio podcast places. So, also note, when we were at the Guild Wars 2 event at PAX, which is a party on the Friday, it didn't have a booth, which was weird, but that's another thing. We'll talk about that another time. But the Guild Wars 2 party, which was very good, they had lots of stuff to give away. There were a bunch of people came up to us and told us how much they enjoyed the podcast. I told them it was shit, but
Jebro literally was just like, it's shit. And then I had to laugh and like play off of it.
And
like,
sweat.
listen to Jebro. It's totally not shit.
I'd do the self-deprecating British humor of like, are you sure you really want to spend 3 hours of your day listening to that bollocks? Like, it just oversell it. I didn't want to oversell it,
So you
Also,
went around and told people not to watch it.
Yes.
Yeah, so Jebro's told everybody
Wow.
it's garbage and it's terrible not to watch it. Yeah, that's a good, effective marketing strategy. Jeb.
he's just doing reverse psychology on
It
people.
is.
You know,
It is
Yeah.
complete reverse psychology.
he's a psychologist, so
I'm not a
he knows
psychologist,
these things.
actually.
He's a psychiatrist,
No,
so he
I'm not
knows.
even a
Psychiatrist.
psychiatrist.
He's a
Therapist.
counselor. He's a counselor.
I'm a mental
so he
health
knows this.
therapist.
Therapist.
Yes.
Okay.
Well done, bitch. You got there in the end. You
Also,
don't get,
I
you
didn't
don't
know-
get
Close
any
enough.
awards for that.
I'm gonna need Jebro or somebody to send me the picture of those boots that you have so that I can continue while we talk on our shit podcast to make a Wikipedia entry
Yeah.
for boots.
Don't do
Okay.
it.
All right, I'll
I'm
send it to
gonna
you.
do it.
Wait. I can just reply with you in the thing at Rookery.
But to be
These
honest,
are the boots.
thank you. Yes, narrate it so that I know that you're doing it. So
I
that-
just have done it
stay on
for
top
you.
of it.
There you go.
Perfect. Thank you so much. But no, for anybody that came up to us, that chatted with us, or mentioned they love the podcast, just like thank you from the bottom of our hearts. It was so nice to meet everybody, and it was obviously great to hang out with you, Jeb. And I was sad that all of our Lightbringers couldn't be there because it was a lovely evening. And I think one of the things that's really nice, this was my first of the Guild Wars 2 community gatherings.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I went to the Icebird Saga. I went to IBS's launch event thing that they did. the
Yeah,
sort of
that goodie
announcement
bag
event.
was.
Oh, it was so good. And I was hoping they might do something kind of similar for Secrets
they
of the
did.
Obscure. But
Just
I
not
will say
in
this much. Yeah, I will say this much. The actual community event was so nice. It was at a great venue. It was the perfect way to wind down at the end of the day. It wasn't exhausting. It wasn't loud, ridiculously loud music and a bunch of strobe lights and a whole bit. It wasn't anything like that. It was just a really nice gathering with people. The food was great. And so many of the team were there, new and old. It was just really nice to get to talk with them and just connect about this game that we love, or that, with the devs they work on. And just talk about why we love it so much and introduce some new folks to it too. I brought a friend that, you know, has only just started Guild Wars 2, and know that a few other people had kind of brought other folks along as well. And everybody just kept saying afterwards, the community is so great and the devs are so kind. Like just over, like, you know, Fusion was just saying that to me over and over. Like, what a great event. I can see why, like, you love the game. And I was just like, yeah, because our community is awesome.
It was very wholesome.
You know, since we're going to be getting an expansion every year, maybe we're going to have something like that every year as well.
Well, that event has been happening every year for like a long time.
Well, then never mind.
But like, in celebration of the expansion.
I mean, yeah, for sure.
Well, the thing is, though, like, right. You know, I mean, I think Kroof and Fornax, you could corroborate this. Like, I got contacted and said that they'd fly me out, but they were gonna fly me coach, so I was like, forget it, you know.
They even put mine even lower. They said, we'll put you in the storage area underneath the plane
where the cats
if you can just get into like a nice crate. I don't know, maybe. But I thought about it, but I have an affinity to just sneeze around a lot of animals, so I decided not to.
Yeah, that's fair.
That was
that's
the
fair.
reason.
So
why.
maybe next year, if
it's not allergies. I think it's more so just an intimidation tactic on my part.
Oh, I see.
You know, showing who the alpha is.
So you sneeze at animals?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're asserting their dominance. That's what they're doing. Yeah.
So it's like a call to the wild. Okay.
Yeah.
Like you're a druid. Okay. I get it. Or a ranger.
But no, I would the day that I get to attend and venture off into the wider world and meet up. They're always so fun. Love conventions, love gatherings.
Oh, it's so. I would say if anyone can go, like you really do have to go. And I think everyone who even didn't have a ticket got in outside as well. I don't think anyone didn't get in as well. So like, definitely try and get there. All the people from our communities as well that came out, we met a bunch of people, and like you said, like all the crew. Like I got to see Drew and Joe from the audio team. I love those guys so much, and they're just awesome to chat to. McLean was there, which was weird. Like I didn't realize, and we've literally been talking for like 10 years. We never met, and we just chatted for ages. What a legend!
Can I tell you something funny about that?
Sure.
Jeb and McLean were talking behind me while I was like chatting to some other friends and some other folks. And I turned around to say something to Jebro, but Jebro had like literally just turned to talk to a different group that had come up to him. And so I was just left kind of staring at whoever Jebro had been talking to.
Oh.
And I look at his face, and then I'm like, oh, this is so weird. He looks so familiar to me. So my eyes kind of like dart down to his name tag, and I see McLean, and I look back up at him, and he's just like smiling and nodding, and I go, McLean, damn it. Like, doubled over. He just started laughing. I was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, I've been, you know, this is perhaps the least graceful hello I've done tonight, but I had no idea that you were going to be here. And I just genuinely love your music so much. And so he and I chatted for a while after that, which was so lovely, Deb. I agree. He's such a wonderful person. He was talking about his journey with composing for the game and how he started out on the sound team. And he has a background in education in composing and music. For a while, he was trying to he was like, I'm going to be a rock star kind of thing, getting out of university. Then he ended up going into the sound work with Guild Wars 2. And then when they were looking for a new sort of primary composer, he went, wait, I do that. I compose. I could do that. And so he apparently just put in a ton of work, like brushing off his skills and, you know, trying to just get a bunch of stuff together to show to them and put it in front of them. And they were like, yeah, hell yeah, let's go for it. And he has been such an incredible gift to this game. And I think his music, the way that he even kind of got wrapped up in it, like it's just become such a huge part of Guild Wars 2 for me. And I've loved his work in SOTO.
Yeah, he had a hat on. That's why, because he's bald. So like, and that's the thing. Like Ruffle says it in the chat. Like, it was like, I think that's why people didn't recognize him. So like,
I do like that.
It was intentional.
That Jebro just beelines it to the fellow bald people when he goes to celebrations like that.
No. Like someone in chat said it was funny seeing everyone's reaction when they realized he was there. He was wearing a cap. He wasn't bald. That's the thing. Yeah, so it was like, you know, that was the thing. Yes, and one thing is that they tell you about their lives. Like, you can talk to them like they're just regular people, like they're your friends, like they're your mates, that you've known them for years, and it's just good to catch up with them. That is why these guys are just awesome. Okay, let's talk about the game. We've done banter and intro for half an hour, but the feedback has been from the party that most people enjoy the banter and the random chats and anything else. So
other streams, this would be the time that we'd start. So I think we're making good time.
True. That's actually true.
Yeah, good point.
Also, yeah, there was other people we met who I've never seen their faces before. There was Essence, Essence of Vlog was there. There was like oh god, some artists and a bunch of other folks who just never met. Some people from community team as well, which is very cool. Ruby, obviously, there running around as per usual, just working their ass off as they do every single time I ever see Ruby. Just like, fair play to that lady right there and everyone who put on that event, because that was a lot of work. And I won a keyboard, which is sick.
Oh, what?
I haven't used it yet.
Nice.
I haven't used it yet. But like, there was so many giveaways, ridiculous. And there were people like giving away their things that they'd won to random people. They were just so kind, like just random like community members were like, yeah, not sure, do you want this thing? Do you want that thing? It's like, whoa, these people are ridiculously cunts. It was just good vibes. It was really good.
The barter
vibes.
system is alive and well.
Yeah, it was. Like, people were swapping things and like...
So it was like a big swap meet.
It was a little bit like during the giveaway. Yeah, it was pretty hectic. But anyway, it was lovely. Okay, so with Secrets of the Obscure, Guild Wars 2 has released an expansion a couple of weeks ago, just in case you didn't know. And our last podcast, episode 1, was talking about our first impressions. If you are worried about any kind of spoilers about the expansion, I would say don't listen to the rest of this until you've got significantly further in. I would say to the last map, because we're going to talk about the maps. We're not going to really talk about too much the story past getting into like Amnitas. That's where we'll stop talking about story if we do. It's just really about getting there, I suppose, into the Wizard's Tower as well, and how we get there. But we'll go into further detail when we eventually do a story podcast, which we haven't done for End of Dragons yet. But,
oh yeah, so do we have to go back and do the End of Dragons one before
we're still doing the original story. We're still going. Right. We got to get through that. We got pretty far with that. Didn't we?
I don't know. I think I went on vacation and then it
Manor.
Really Caucus Manor.
I think that's where we stopped, and I think we might have done the level 40 stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting there were an expansion to come out. Like, that's the thing. Like, we were trying to like get content for the show, and it's like, okay.
And to be honest, since expansion's coming out every year, I don't know if we're gonna be able to go back to that.
Yeah, we might be. It might have to be current content.
Yeah,
diving into that.
I mean, there's nothing. That's good. That's fine. Even if there's a random one-off episode where we just do it for fun, I don't know. Anyway, it's fine. We'll just maybe do the base story and we'll just rinse it really quick. But yeah, I want to talk about a bunch of different things today. Rifts, starting off with, and I think there's some mixed feelings about Rifts. Actually, I'm actually going to show the first one we kind of come into contact with via Rook's footage, which is in the story actually. Oh wow, there's an ad. Come on, man. Really?
Wow.
I just queued it up at the right place.
Hey. Don't be mad at the ad.
It's for Range Rover. They're not sponsoring this podcast. If they were, then I'd be fine. Oh, it's Defender. Okay.
Oh, if they were? Oh.
If they were, that'd be sick.
That'd be sick. Let it be known that I have edited the Wikipedia entry.
I see the picture of it now. I can't believe you've done this.
Of course I done this.
I can't believe you've done this.
I can't believe you've done this. And I also like how you wrote, who creates adventure videos and other content.
Legend.
But I figured it would give context about why boots would be placed there for you, because you love adventures. But you obviously do and have done a lot of other content for many years. So,
but mostly adventures.
but mostly adventures.
Yeah.
There's a category. Oh, we'll have to add them to the category of NPCs named after community members.
Yes, make sure you update that as well. Crew. Let's put
NPC.
that
It's
in
not.
there.
We've discovered it's a NPB. Right?
NPB.
Well,
I mean, they're after years, surely they'll have their own, intelligence and mind, and they will exist in the world. Happy Star Trek Day, everyone, by the way.
What just happened?
I was just thinking about the entity in Star Trek, and it was the first ever
okay.
episode of Star Trek aired many years ago today. I can't remember. Anyway, I'm like, I just talk random bollocks. So,
All right, let's do this. What are we doing?
This is a rift.
Rift!
This is the first rift that you come into contact with in the story, if you do the story and you're not just randomly pointed into the map, which is big, and with a champion as well, which is kind of fun. You're playing Firebrand?
Yes,
Oh, wow.
I was playing Heal Firebrand at this point because I had put my wizard fashion on that particular set, and I was reluctant to put anything else. Well, also because Firebrand just has such a great wizard vibe because it's like you got the books and the like. But after this particular instance, I did realize very quickly that I was in for a world of slow, sad DPS. So we did swap over to my power dragon hunter, and I made a different.
I was gonna say dragon hunter is the one I'm used to. Yeah, so that was the
Also,
I played through Condi Firebrand, so
yeah, I could do a Condi build.
Condi
I've never done a
Firebrand.
Condi build on it.
oh, it's
I was
fun.
doing-
Very
Lot of
strong.
burning.
Very strong.
Lots.
So I was doing
And
Condi
easy.
Firebrand
fun
as
times.
well when we started this, and I discovered something that Rift closure, it only really matters in this one particular instance. Everywhere else it doesn't matter because there's so many people closing Rifts at the same time. But in this one particular instance, the fact that Rift's closure rate is dependent on your power stat and not any other stat means that if you're a Condi build with no power in it, the rift closes very, very slowly when you're doing it.
Really?
It's like,
Interesting.
yeah.
I did not know that. Interesting.
Yeah, it took like 30 seconds to close one rift for me, and it was this is a little dull. But obviously doesn't matter because when you're in the world and there's more things, and then also when you get outside on your sky scale, the sky scale has a power stat of its own, and it uses that instead, so the rifts close faster. So, yeah. Interesting little tidbit there, just to let you know.
Interesting little tidbit. How do you feel about rifts in general? Because like there was, maybe we can start off with your introduction to rifts, because we actually get trained in. I'll have to try and find that footage. We actually get trained in how to use the Secret of the Obscure. We get to trained. Wait, sorry. The what's it called?
Heart of the Obscure.
Heart of the Obscure, not the Secret. Just one. That's one of the secrets. The Heart of the Obscure, and how we're actually supposed to. How was that intro into kind of? How was it? Was it good? Was it good? Do you think? Like a nice little intro into how you kind of what rifts are, why we're kind of looking for them, and what the whole aim of the point of it is, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, and it introduces you to a mechanic that you'll be doing a lot of in this expansion.
Yes.
It felt totally fine, but as my very initial impression of rifts, I really enjoyed, because I was in a very small group. There were only like 2 other people with me, so it felt like a very nice encounter in terms of fighting an elite mob. This is something you can do solo or just with a couple other players. But as more time has progressed and people have started doing rift farms, I have noticed that it does kind of go by a bit too quickly for my liking, and I just wish that the scaling for group content with rifts was maybe a little bit more fine-tuned. But for initial impressions, I really enjoyed them, and I think they are a lasting component of this expansion at least, and also in the other core maps that you can go and do whenever you want. So I like them.
Nice. Okay. Any other thoughts?
I don't know if I've done enough of them yet. But I have done a 1, 2, and 3 tier rifts, and I've probably done, I don't know, 30 odd rifts or something like that. And I mean they're fine. They're fun. But I feel like it gets a little monotonous if that's all you do over and over again. So I would say
Or if that's the only
if
thing
you're
actually
farming
trying
for
to do.
stuff, because you need the new stuff in the game, and you need all the rift essences to get stuff, and that means you're just basically doing rifts for 2 hours, 3 hours straight. It's a bit much.
Yeah.
But yeah. But you know, it's not. It's I think if the rift events themselves were a little more varied, it would be interesting. But I think they're pretty set in stone. They're all the same spawn locations. It's a wave of enemies that you kill. Takes a certain amount of time depending on how many people are there, and then there's a boss. And the bosses are somewhat varied because it's kind of like the old bounty system. They have different like mechanics that are different, and they have different combinations of mechanics sometimes that the old bounties used to have, kind of. So sometimes the bosses are more difficult than others. You know, sometimes it's more interesting that way. But it's just this. It's the same formula each time, and so if you like it, great. But if you don't like it, then I don't know what to say. You're gonna have a lot of things you don't like that's the same. Yeah.
I think one element of the repetition, which I also felt, because it is very similar to bounties, but for some reason bounties felt a little bit more fresh. And I think that's also because bounties used a wide variety of models. With rifts, they're all Cryptus, and we don't really have too many Cryptus variations. So the more that I've done them, the more that I'm just seeing very similar Cryptus and similar mechanics, because they're, once again, are not as many as like Hydras versus Abogas versus other Path of Fire bounty creatures. And on top of that, implementing bounty systems and not really adding any new of the bounty effects, it does begin to feel like, oh, I've done a lot of this already. So I think maybe in the future, if they updated those bounty effects or added new ones, that could add another layer of just keeping it a little bit more interesting. On top of that, maybe just adding a few more Cryptus models and Cryptus to fight. But early stages of what rifts are if they want to expand.
Yeah, and I think I like the way rifts work mechanically more than the bounty system too, like the chasing the direction of the rifts and everything feeling a lot faster than the bounty system. But I would say that I think that's what I wanted to say. But I also want to say that I think I also understand the design of the events as well, in that you have that period of time where it's just killing random stuff for a little while before the boss spawns. And I think that was implemented so to give people who are slower getting around maps a chance to catch up before the important thing happens. So it was I guess a clever way to do that. But I think they could probably change up the intro event before the boss.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah,
I've really enjoyed these. I actually think something too with them is that that we haven't touched on yet is that they are integrated organically into the learning process. You know, we touched a little on like the initial thing that introduces you, right? That story instance where you have to do the whole thing with the rift. But when I compare something like bounties in Path of Fire to this feels so much more like a very clear-cut, like, here's a new content feature for this expansion. Here's how we're tying it into the story. Here's its relevance to you. This is us showing you how to kind of get grounded in it, as well as some of the other really nice little tutorial things that they put in, even for new players who maybe didn't do all the other expansions, who might just be coming in for this one. So I really felt like the opening of this expansion did a great job of just like kind of setting up and showcasing a lot of the major things that you'd be interacting with. So in that regard, I think it's great. And the fact that, Boots, like you were saying, there's like that little bit of downtime between each, but there's that fast pace where it's not like you're having to go to a board, try to get a thing, go back out. Instead, you're kind of just flowing around the maps. And one of the things these maps do so well in SOTO is actually give a reason to use the Griffin versus the Sky Scale, and to even like jump between different things like your glider or stuff like that. The sort of like learning curve that I'm feeling as I come into the expansion and as I work my way through it reminds me so much of like before I had my gliders in Heart of Thorns, you know, where like I could tell that there was a ceiling for me to reach with how I would be able to like navigate the world, or like living Season 4 before you get the Sky Scale on like Dragonfall in particular, right? You feel that like, oh wait, hold on, I can, you know, get stuff that will make this so much easier for me. But I feel it in a very different way with these SOTO maps, and I think it's such a testament to Guild Wars 2 and their design team and everybody, because like we're using mounts that already exist in the game, but the way that they have created these zones to showcase, like if you're on a Nidus and you're trying to get somewhere fast, if you know how to use the Griffin well, it is way more of an advantage to you. You are going to get there way faster than the Sky Scale. If you have all those masteries unlocked, if you're able to get the expanded flight masteries, if you're, you know, jumping in and out of the currents and everything, like it gives you that same sense. And this is 10 plus years into the game, which is amazing. And I think that flow is there. Although I absolutely agree with what Kroof was saying about some of the scaling. I think, Kroof, you were in my chat. We were chatting about it while I was playing, and you were saying it feels really good for groups like 1 to 5 people-ish, where you go in, you can actually see some of the mechanics. It takes a little bit. You close it at the end. But I have noticed, just like we were talking about that day more and more, that I do feel like your point stands, that the larger the group is, the scaling doesn't quite keep up as well. Because when you start hitting like more than that, or like 10 plus players, it goes by so fast. It feels like you were barely engaging with anything. So I think that like maybe that higher end could use a little bit of balancing, and that might also kind of keep it feeling a little bit more like something that you can kind of, you know, dig into, as opposed to just, I mean, it is repetitive. It's meant to be. I don't mind. I like content sometimes that just is like, and I do this thing and I just go around and do it for a while and have on a podcast, or I, you know, whatever it is, put on a Netflix show, hang out a little bit. But like, I think that if they add more enemy variants, if they were to tweak that scaling a little bit, I think it is a fun addition. And I'm actually really curious, because we've been talking, but I want to know, Fornax, what you've been thinking about it too.
My playthrough, the first point of kind of that kicked me out of the narrative was the fact that we were just handed this mystical object, which they'd only just found, and there was no point that we decided that we're going to stick around, that they would accept us, that they've been watching us from afar. If you've listened to the story, at least the first part, this is not spoilers if you've played the intro, and they have varying degrees of trust in the commander because of the turmoil that we have wrought on the world, for better or for worse. They didn't know whether we were a good guy or a bad guy, so her just handing us this one-off artifact that can close rifts is strange.
By the way, Fornax, because we had a debate about this last time, have we decided that it is a one-of-a-kind artifact?
Yep, it's on the wiki. It's part of the lore.
Oh boy, okay. Because I see so many of them. Really? Everybody's carrying them these days.
I mean,
yeah.
You have to. Yeah. I mean, that is kind of weird. We had this talk.
There is a way to narratively do. We did. There is a way narratively they could have done it that I think would have made us feel like a little bit of more of a special snowflake, and would have been more interesting. I would, as I said last time, I would have liked to have found it inside Naos itself. I would have liked to have it been hidden there. Maybe some Masat got trapped there and they hid it. Maybe pick any character that you like who got trapped in Naos and who had to hide the artifact, and then the artifact recognizes us as a sort of a being that's been touched by power, and then it reveals itself, and then we drag it out of the rift with us, and then we have it, and then we show it to Zojja, and she's like, oh my god, this can close rifts, wow, and off we go, and we're off to the races, rather than it's found. They don't really say how it's found, so that was on a narrative point of that was a bit of a weakness. It's not necessarily terrible writing or anything. There's a payoff between the gameplay and the narrative when you come to big open world MMOs. So this is a nitpick.
It's a good, isn't that a good question? Like, I mean, but there is a difference in this, in that we aren't the big commander, most important person in the story, like which is what it's been like before. So the fact that this thing already exists and that we haven't got much of a backstory to it might be a little bit more playing into the fact that these things kind of already exist and they're aware of them, and we're just coming in at a later point in time, and maybe they'll give us more later, hopefully.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I do like that style of writing sometimes too. You're right, like you're along for the ride, catch up, you're behind kind of situation.
I mean, I could see this being something that is more of a like measured decision that we weren't privy to. I agree with you. I hadn't really given it a huge amount of depth, I think, because of exactly what you were talking about, Fornax. The idea that sometimes in games for a new mechanic, there's just sort of a narrative trade-off, right? It's like, here's the thing you need to do the thing for this expansion. So I hadn't necessarily registered it, but I do think that is something that is abrupt about the opening. For an opening that otherwise sets up a massive, just an incredible amount of stuff so well. That one piece, like the kind of impression that I got was that perhaps because of our unique magical whatever is happening with us and stuff like that, that we seem to be the one that in this moment was the most capable or adept of wielding it in such a way that, like, we could be on the front lines, we could hold this down, that they had finally decided, yes, we will, there's no other option at this point, that, the commander's here and we have to extend some kind of trust because they may be able to get this done for us. But I think they could have put a stronger narrative beat in there, or even if, like, I like the idea of finding it in Ios, like if you found it there, that would make total sense because there would be almost more of a sense of it being yours, right? Because you discovered it. Or even if when you got there, they were like, we've had this thing and we have ideas about what it does and we desperately need it, but we can't get anybody who's able to use it. And then if you were like, oh, look, I have just a wild magical shenanigan happening all up in me, I can use it. Like, that would have been something that I think even could have smoothed that a little, but I hadn't thought much about it.
There's a magical shenanigan happening all up in me.
Listen,
wow.
We got a lot of stuff happening up in here. We are like a stew of
could have been written in because we managed to die and come back. That's why we got to use it. We have some very unique elements through the commander's writings that could have been tweaked a little bit, but
we've been there for several ascensions as well, right? We were there. We were in the blast radius when Aurene ascended. We did the fake, or we witnessed the ascension of Ossa in the library in the Priory. So we have been adjacent to, and we've been there when every dragon exploded, with all this when all this magic is anyway, and that's actually that's what I said last time. Thank you. That's what I said last time. You saying that is exactly what I said. If somehow I was hoping we would awaken the artifact in some capacity, that it would respond to us and perhaps even respond to oh my god, Zoja, because she had also been in the blast radius of 2 dragons being felled, so that's why she could interact with it, and that would be why we could interact with it, because we have the kind of special bond. But there's a point where narrative and practicality meet. So in terms of the mechanics of it, as a player, I like the fact that I'm in control. I can decide, I can spin up the thing, I can go and do it. I don't have to participate if I don't want to. I would like it, like you guys said. Also, they did tame down the hand thing, which was much appreciated. That was just terrifying. The animation was just...
I think they did, didn't they?
Disembodied hand.
I think that was us. I think that was because of us.
Were you all talking?
One aggressive.
Were you talking about it last week?
We talked about it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, when there was when they first revealed the teaser,
it was like,
we paused and I was like, that is one aggressive twisting of the light bulb hand animation.
Double jointed to get away with that. Like, that's impressive. And it kind of looked like you had 6 fingers as well. Honestly, like, it was just magical. I mean, maybe that's the whole
now
point.
I kind of miss it.
Yeah,
same.
Bring it back. I get what you mean. Yeah.
I will say I totally agree with you guys about it's one thing to have the lower level ones as quite repetitive so that you can deal with it if you're on your own and you just want to get on and do it and get your dust and things, that's fine. But if you've got a higher tier one, a higher tier rift spawning, it would be nice if it was more of an event. It would be nice if there was a variety so that there's, say, pick like 3 different types of event that can happen and you get whichever one, because they have all these bounty effects that they could transfer with a different model, you would make the assumption. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's thinking too much about it, but there are some where you have to have these balls and the shiny balls and you have to stand in the thing in the ground, and you guys know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. I'm not being very eloquent.
Lots of shiny balls.
I mean,
of course.
Let us not pretend that the game does not have an obsession with shiny balls, shall we not?
Most games do. Elder Scrolls Online has a big obsession with shiny balls.
Yeah.
Shiny balls that actually float around you, and 3 of them as well. It's not even 2.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
Thankfully,
the new
we don't
Griffin
have any
skin.
Skrit in this expansion. Ooh.
Well, we do. One of the main NPCs.
Not too many.
My favorite NPC, actually.
They are the best.
So sweet.
It's them and the dwarf. The dwarf and the script are the best. It's true.
Yeah.
But I totally agree with you, Fornax, to that point, because there is no difference between tier 2 and tier 3 rift enemies, which was a bit shocking from my standpoint, at least. I was expecting that, tier 1 to tier 2, it goes from an elite to a champion. And I was expecting at least tier 3 to be much more. I think it might have a little bit more health, but other than that, it feels relatively the same from tier 2.
I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to expand over the course of this year, right? Like, we get new variations or additions or stuff like that.
Tier 4.
Yeah. Like, I would love to see.
Which we are,
yeah.
Coalescences, which will be coming, I believe, in the next update. And those are going to be a bit more legendary, and they're going to have legendary enemies. So
yes,
there will be a progression and, an escalation of this rift system.
But we don't get to select the type of rift it is, right? Like, the rift is a tier 1 and that's what it is. We don't get to, like, open it and say,
no,
do we?
You have to craft specific items known as motivations.
Right, yeah.
You'll have different tiers, and those motivations will allow you to unlock different tiers, but also allow you to gain so much more essence if you have that motivation equipped.
I've still not got that.
It can be a little, they're really pricey on the trading post, but you can craft them. But the good thing is that it's a very group-oriented system. So even if you don't have motivations, you can tag along on tier 2 or tier 3 rift trains. You'll get less essence if you don't have them, but you're still getting the appropriate tier 2 and tier 3 essences that you'll need for a bunch of things in SOTO.
Okay. I did think they were going to be a little bit more involved. I'm not gonna. I'm a little bit disappointed by rifts. I think because of Rift, the game. I know I keep going on about it. Like, I know that was the main thing about the game, so they should have been good. But I was just, at the same time, I was like, oh, they're gonna create and they're gonna change the area and they're gonna be really like epic, and really they're kind of just events. They're just live events, invasions, which they have in the base game. That's really what they are. With some
I feel like you shouldn't use Rift, a game that was named after Rifts, to judge whether or not these do it as well. When Guild Wars 2 comes out with Guild Wars, then you can start judging.
I mean, they have got Guild Wars. They had Guild tournaments.
Soon.tm alliances.
They technically already
did. Soon.
It was
well, I mean, you can definitely see, I'm not surprised you're making the parallel, Jeb, because you can definitely see the inspiration with the Rift stuff and with what I know of the mechanics that were similar from Rift.
Oh, they've talked about it as well, like in the past. Like, their event system, their whole live event system is built and influenced heavily from Warhammer Online and Rift. Like, that's where all of these came from, like all of these things. So there is like the idea that you could upgrade things to make it more powerful so you can get more rewards. That's what I thought we were going to get. Like, you would upgrade like a Rift, maybe with a bunch of people so there were more enemies, or so the boss was like more HP, or if you're in a guild, for example, like there was a Rift, or maybe if you had a guild hall, and like you can do with the maps and stuff where you can summon the bosses, right? Like to Quattle or whatever, you could summon like a guild rift, and you could like have some epic like battle with a rift, and like with other people on the map, you know.
Take my money. Take my money.
Take my money, right?
Yeah.
There's still time though. Like there's still time for features like that. And
The
expansion like that.
coalescence.
Someone clip that so we can send it to Arena.
I'd say keep a lookout, because from what they've been talking about, it seems like it's going to be a bit more of a cinematic, large group endeavor. This, I think, is smart just for like players to get in and do something, as Rick was saying. And that's one reason why I do enjoy at least the tier 1 and tier 2s, because you can just like listen to podcasts and streams and go and play the game. Oftentimes when I'd log in before Secrets of the Obscure, I'd log in and say, what can I do? Like, what do I want to do? This is a little bit more of a in your face, like you can go and do rifts using this new mastery system. And there's little that you have to like organize, and you can just kind of fall into it.
I did enjoy them. Did enjoy them though.
I have to say, I totally agree with you, Jeb, that I'm kind of disappointed that when a rift appears, there isn't a corruption of the surrounding area. That would be nice. It's kind of seeping out and those beautiful red tendrils that are just so like creepy but amazingly like attractive in a weird car crash way. I would love that to be seeping out, and when you get into an area that's infected by one of these rifts, you can just see the landscape just transforming. It's almost like the realms are slipping together. That would be amazing. But then, I mean, we are in the daddy, I want a pony realm of the spectrum here.
I don't think that's daddy wants a pony. I think you're right. I think it's totally doable. That tech is old for a lot of games. Like that's like, you know, it's just tech which kind of appears and disappears. They've had the tech there for ages. They've got in their events, right? I mean, that's literally what happens. Like the map changes in events, different things pop up, and you know they disappear. And it's in a puff of smoke sometimes, but you know, I'm sure things have come a long way in the last 10 years, or 11 now, because we're 11. But I don't think that's too much for us. And they've got, you know, like the art. When you said that, it made me think about the first time you go through when you're exiting in the intro part of the story and you're escaping, what's his name? I can't remember his name. Bob. I'm gonna call
Saris.
him. And you're going through the portal. There's all of that art there, and all of the kind of I guess it looks like it's been taken over, right? A bit Stranger Things, which is what we were talking about before. And having that kind of just coming out of the rift, and just even if it was just a bit more red, I don't know, you know, something.
Yeah, like, I think the visual, you got to sell it. You got to visually sell it to kind of captivate, and that could have been a little bit better. Because
the rift, when you're closing the rift or when you're opening the rift, it's very cool. I love that. Like the beams of light coming out from. I've got some wicked screenshots of like just everyone like with the hearts and just the beam coming out, and you're summoning, you're closing it, you're opening it. It's so good. And then and there's the big AoE, and it's really obvious where you've got to stand. It feels like you're all doing this thing together. And then it's like, but the actual rift itself, it's like, again, it's not as epic.
I will say, one thing I've noticed is that there are a couple rifts, given their locations, that seem to spawn enemies in sometimes kind of weird places. The one that immediately comes to mind for me is, so the first map, there's the portion that's like I don't know if this is a spoiler. Do you care if I describe the area of the first map?
It's the first map.
No, we're not with maps you can talk about.
Okay. It's like the Path of Fire area where Balthazar, like the Balthazar alternate reality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's a rift that spawns there where sometimes some of the enemies that you need to like push it to the next phase spawn like up on a ledge behind like and it's just I've had multiple times where I'll wander around that area with other people like, where is this one stupid enemy that we can't seem to find? And we'll like trying to hunt them down to kill them. So in this discussion about, you know, the visual field or area of the rift being marked a little bit more clearly, I think that would almost help as well if, you know, like you saw, sure, there was some kind of effect or darker kind of thing, or the ground had those tendrils across them, to have like a better idea of, oh, this is the full extent of this area range. Like there are the kind of like event markers, and of course once you know to start looking, you can roam around. It's not the end of the world, but I think that would help. I get not wanting to be too disruptive on the map, especially when there are other things like the metas that happen. and things like that, or you don't want it to be so intrusive, particularly on older maps, that like new players going through those are confused, going like, what is happening if this whole dynamic thing suddenly renders, and they're like, this has nothing to do with the story I'm doing, why is this here right now? Like, so I get why maybe they tried to keep that balance, and I think, like everybody was saying, the other kind of indicators, the circle, all that sort of stuff, are really clear and really nice on them, but there have been a few things here or there that I've definitely noticed.
I think that might be a like, all these massive events and this ground changing could be like a, if you really want to see what's happening, darling, buy the expansion. But what I would say is, I was just thinking,
people told me, said that to me, I would buy it, especially if they call me darling. Like, just,
darling.
Please call me that. That would be lovely.
I was actually thinking when we were talking about the older missions, so they used to be failed states. I remember you talking about it where you had to do a specific thing when you were crafting a legendary, and there was a failed state that had to spawn for an event on a map so that you could complete it. What would a failed state for failing to close a rift look like? What could that do to the map? Could that like build on the story? Could that spawn into this massive dynamic event where the invasion just takes over an entire quadrant of Amnitas or something like that, and then you have to group together? I mean, I like the idea of that from a narrative point of view. I don't know whether it's kind of feasible from a game point of view, but I like the idea of having a failed state. I like the idea of having a failed state.
Phonics, you played Rift, right? You literally played Rift.
I did.
Yeah, like that's what happened. That's what happened. If you failed events, they would take over outposts. So they would take over literal bases, and you wouldn't be able to use any of it, like, at all.
That used to be a thing in Guild Wars 2, and they really stopped doing that in Path of Fire. Aside from the rifts in SOTO, there are normal event chains where certain demons will pop up. The one that comes to mind is Dexicos the Covetous in the new Kaining area. And I actually was doing that event, and I had spawned into a map where it failed. And I had never seen it fail before, and I was like, oh, what is Dexicos the Covetous, this demon, going to do once this time runs out and this event fails? He's like, you could never defeat me, and then just despawns. And I'm like, oh, that was it? Like, he didn't just like kill all the enemy or the allies like in the area and like set up shop or have another event that chains into it, which means you have to kill him, but he's empowered and stronger. And so I think some fail states for these events, be them isolated dynamic events and or rift systems, could be interesting and bring a bit more of, what's the word I'm looking for? Bring a bit more, I don't know, realism to the world and the map that you're in, or a little bit more consequence to the events that you do fail. Because as it is right now, failure in Guild Wars 2 is there's very little backlash. But I think if the events told that story a bit more, it'd be cool.
And it doesn't have to be like highly oppressive to the gameplay experience either. Like it can be more of this fun, like you only need 2 or 3 of your mates or like whoever's wandering around on the map to just be like, fight this incursion, put it back in its place, and like, you know, then you can use a vendor again. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe they could introduce that with a tier 4 where it actually has, where there feels like there's a consequence. Although I do like Enlin's idea of just like, if you failed this, guys, you're all getting a 24-hour ban, and you need to go away and think about what you're doing.
That's classic hardcore WoW right there. Your character just dies.
Enlin's my buddy, by the way, my guild. Hi, darling. Good to see you. Hello.
Expansion.
I love the idea. I love the idea of fail states, but I think partially too, as we've seen recently, sometimes they can feel counterintuitive to player experience, right? Where if the idea is to succeed, then if you like we saw with some of the Oreen legendary stuff, right? Where you had to do a boss that only procced if you failed the events that led up to it, which
they shouldn't do that.
Again,
definitely don't.
I love the idea of this, right? But this is like a practical example of how the concept of this idea does not always work well with the reality of player experience, where if people are set in front of something and they are trying to progress it, their natural instinct through gaming will be to succeed at it. And so if it is a thing where you're playing this game of I have to fail this or succeed this or do that or do this, oftentimes it's counterintuitive to that natural gameplay flow in such a way that it creates these infuriating situations, right? That's not to say that I don't think that they could still or should still continue to play with things like that, because I do think it's a really cool idea, and I do think that if there were variable outcomes in some kind of controlled situation, that it would be something really interesting. I mean, I actually think that kind of what you brought up earlier about the idea of like how you could upgrade rifts is kind of an example of how like player added variable or, you know, things like that create a different dynamic where you're like, well, we could add on more health, or we could do this or do this to try and get more of a reward. So maybe then pushing forward, there would be something where like, if you try to super succeed in an event or something, it procs a different version, or just something that would indicate more what option, like rather than fail state, having something like a branching option, or I don't know. It's hard to figure out.
That's going to be a huge part of the content for actually another game. Which is an MMORPG, which is coming out maybe in a couple of years. What is it? Ashes of Creation, right? So that is basically what the game is. That is basically what the game's going to be about, which is very interesting. I'm interested, and I still think Ashes of Creation is going to be a little bit like the other MMORPGs, like Ashes, Camelot Unchained and stuff, where we're literally just not going to hear a ton of crap for a while, and then suddenly it come out. Although Camelot Unchained has just never really come out, unfortunately.
Or Crowfall.
Crowfall
Let's hope
came
it's
out.
not another
it just
Star
flopped.
Citizen. Holy shirt balls.
Star Citizen's doing all right though. All right, that is Star Citizen's another Badger, and is a different beast.
But when is Squadron 42 coming out? Because that's what I want to play. Anyway, sorry.
I got no idea. The
Yeah,
story.
yeah,
I have no
yeah.
idea. I think it's becoming part of it more and more. So, but that's
If
another
only for
discussion.
Mark Hamill. If only for Mark Hamill, because he's like
Oh really? I didn't
god
even know
tier,
it was in
amazing
that.
human.
Okay, ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
Didn't even
yeah. And
okay.
and Superman, Mr. Cavill, Mr.
Really?
Cavill of the
Mr. Cavill.
who is an
know
MMO
that.
addict. Yeah, he's
He
a
is.
WoW
He
player.
plays a ton of MMOs.
I know that,
Yeah.
but I didn't know about this thing about Star Citizen. That's ridiculous. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I need to look that up. Okay. Sorry. Yes, we do. I do need to. That is another idea. You know what? I have therapy. I've told everyone this before, and my therapist is like, "You should just do the things you want to do." So I'm going to do all the different gaming podcasts I want to do. Unfortunately, I have a job. So, you know, which I love. And so I haven't got all the time in the world, but maybe every stream is just going to be a podcast instead.
What? Just do like 24-hour work days. It's fine.
Or like when you have meetings, just
You
play
do.
New World and stuff instead.
Yeah.
Well, if you again, you know, they've got an expansion coming out in October. F you, dude. Seriously, I've got too much to do. Stop
That's
giving
the
me
expansion
games.
name?
No.
Oh my god.
Dude, whoa,
Well, it kind
okay.
of is, because in the story there is. Well, I can't tell you because that's a spoiler. But like it is a whole zone got taken over. Basically, it's in the game now, and you can't really avoid it. And you're going back into the zone to effectively retake it. They've basically completely changed the zone that was in the live game. That's been part of the story. It's very awesome, and you're going to be able to get mounts, and it's exciting. They're doing some good stuff over there.
The Lion's Arch.
Actually, can I do a quick shout out to anybody who's playing Final Fantasy 14? At the moment, you can get a Griffin mount if you go in and do the events. It's a beautiful Griffin mount, and you get a little cutscene with the creator, which is
Phoenix?
amazing.
Yes,
So,
yes.
if you haven't,
Sorry,
go
I was
on.
gonna say, no, it's our Rising event, and they have a special mount right now because it's the 10-year anniversary.
yeah.
Oh
You become a phoenix because it was from the ashes.
very
Yeah, it's
creation.
gorgeous. Yep. No, wrong one.
Wow.
Close.
sorry.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
Wait. So we've only talked about rifts.
Period.
I think we've kind of done rifts.
But we bitched about the lore as well. We did bitch a bit.
Yeah.
about the
Oh
lore.
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
Oh no, I'm
a
not
little bit.
complaining. This is good. This is good times. So something.
Oh, I'm complaining. I'm mad.
Why? What, about the lore?
About everything.
No, crew, calm down. If we're talking lore and story, but without spoilers, I will say that minus perhaps the little thing that got brought up about how the Heart of the Obscure could be a little bit more integrated. I didn't get to talk about it with all of you like 2 weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
I am obsessed with the story and lore of this expansion. Like,
Second.
it's so good. And I feel like they really have a solid foundation between the like story beats, the new cast of characters. Everything feels well introduced, well established, like even for having this whole concurrent secret history of the world. Like if you're going to expand and you're going to give this different perspective, I really think that they did it in such a great way, where now we almost get to view through all the lore and all the other stuff that you can find or that you're introduced to. We get to view those historical events in a different way. And I love it too, because it's so clever for those players who don't know as much about the overall world lore of Guild Wars 2. Because really, like, what we get in the story is just one area, and a lot of the other stuff and the factions and the groups and the zones and the maps and the history are not as clearly told to many players who like haven't deep dived the Wikipedia or read all the books. And in this one, you actually get this great kind of organic jaunt through time, in a sense, where we get to have so many areas kind of reestablished, events reconfirmed. We get to have various history from various perspectives, different groups. Is this a spoiler? Is this character a spoiler? You mentioned dwarves, Jebro.
We
So
talked about it last week. We talked about it last week.
I literally showed your reaction on stream.
Lear?
Yeah, strangely
talked
enough,
about
your reaction to it
Dagda?
was almost identical to Jebro's
I
reaction
actually
to it
think
on
your
stream.
reaction was maybe better than mine. Because I feel like you were going to cry. And I was like, well, I didn't. So
I was
pretty
feeling that
impressed.
on your behalf, Jebro, because I've listened to you talk about dwarfs for
yeah, but
years.
you were talking, you said like, oh, because they're not stone either. And I was like, that's because that's what I said. And I was like, wow, are they going to say that? And you did. And I was very impressed. It was very good.
Oh, you know, you've trained me well in the way of dwarven excitement. I was just so
So
excited to see them. And yes, like having a character that's Mersat, having, Kroof, I think, was it Kroof that I overheard in the background guessing who I was going to talk about? Dagda. I love Dagda. She might be actually one of my favorites from the expansion, because like I am so glad that we get a Jotun from the time. Like,
cool.
There are so many people playing the game, myself included, for many years until I learned about it, who don't know at all that the Jotun like were a massive power in Tyria, that they had some of the absolute like highest pinnacle of magic predating, you know, like, and we've only really seen them in the state that they are now as various enemies on maps. You may or may not even as a player know that they have their own societies, and like, because as far as a lot of what the game presents to us, they just kind of seem like dumb ogre enemies, right? Yeah. Like, and so like to actually get this perspective with Dagda, I think is also phenomenal. And I could say that about like so many things and so many notes and so many details, and the world is exciting and interesting, and this whole secret wizard order I'm all about. So I just wanted to share that because I didn't get a chance to like share that a few weeks ago, but like this story I think is so well told and well paced, and it feels like there, you know, like we talked about with End of Dragons in our review of that, how in, you know, certain areas the story perhaps felt like things kind of fell through, like, you know, Echo Vault, I think, being a good case where we could have had a lot more story beats, cutscenes, things like that to really give us a good, strong foundation and establishment of the forces and the factions and that particular smaller scale drama and everything else. And I feel like this new kind of expansion format and this like measured pace of releases and this consideration towards what's going to be a satisfying complete arc even within them being episodic has just really benefited the game so much. It feels like it's just so much more of a tighter knit story experience, and I really am happy to see like the writers being able to really showcase what they do so well, because I've enjoyed all of it, honestly.
It's been solid. This has been my favorite.
It's my favorite
expansion for the sake of the story, and it's right up there with Heart of Thorns. It really is. but especially just going through the very first map, I think you bring up a really good point about giving each map its own time to breathe and its own spotlight in the story. Even something like the Wizard's Tower, which operates half as a story, a really big story beat, and also as a player hub. Even within the player hub section, there's a bunch of quests and lore nuggets to find and read. So they really, this expansion, put a lot of time, effort, and detail into fleshing these zones out so they don't feel like something like Echo Vault Forest or any of the other maps in the game where you just want more out of it, but for the sake of scope and what they could get done, it just didn't reach that level. But this felt so much more satisfying.
Can we let's move on to...
Can I say one more thing really, really fast? Really, really fast, Jebro?
Can you say, are you going to say it really quickly as well? At the same time?
Both.
At a fast cadence.
I did want to mention that I think Echo Vault Forest is actually like a really incredible zone.
Disclaimer.
That it just like did not actually have the grounding in narrative and other narrative beats that helped support all of the stuff that is happening on that map. Like there's a lot of really incredible stuff, and the dungeons and the lore and everything with the history, and there's a lot of really good stuff. But where like those, I think where those cracks kind of showed, or where those things kind of fell through those cracks, were more so that the actual like map itself and the experience of it and all the things that were discoverable on it just didn't feel as grounded in the narrative itself and the narrative's momentum. So it kind of left you to sort of just like discover what was happening there, which is not a bad thing. But I think that like having that grounding and that connection helps create an immediate investment and understanding of things like the zones. So I just wanted to say that because Echo Vault has a lot of really cool stuff in it, but it just doesn't feel as well like supported by the narrative itself.
Well, there's certainly a lot less hidden content in this expansion, whereas there is a ton of hidden content in Echo Vault that is absolutely fascinating and brilliant. So yeah.
Oh, like the mini dungeons and the Vastberg thing, and
exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
I feel like the map Skywatch Archipelago was designed, number 1, for Sky Scale, number 2, for lore nerds.
Yes.
Because it's basically designed to just give you all of these really interesting lore ideas in different locations in the map. And it's awesome.
You did a great segue into talking about the first map in the expansion, which was what we're going to do. You did
also,
very good.
Hi Poutine. Hiya. Hi, hello puppy.
He can't hear any of us, but hi,
Oh, I was like, what?
Good puppy. Good puppy.
There he is, yeah.
Such a good boy.
Yes.
We were talking about Rook's Mount. I was like, what? I mean, they look cool. First map, yes. How do we feel about it? Awesome, good times.
It's bad.
I think this is one of my favorite maps in the entire game. It's very, very good. It's very, very good. Why is it good?
To be
though?
controversial.
What do you controversial? Never, Groove.
Never.
I think there was a part of the map, and this is what kind of goes to what Rook was saying, and I think this is in the story. Again, spoiler. This is a spoiler because we're talking about getting up to like Wizard's Tower kind of area, and I'm gonna be very vague. But what they do is they kind of describe the map while you're kind of roaming it. So when you roam over one of the islands or one of the fractals, which we did talk about this last time, this is what they are. But they talk about it and they say, you know, what it was, what it's about, like what's the situation in here, the story, and also the fact that these people are just going to exist forever, you know, which is kind of like, oh man, you're kind of irresponsible bastards. Like,
deeply immoral. Deeply immoral.
I don't know if irresponsible is the right word for it.
Yeah, no, immoral. Immoral is the word.
Have you ever heard of The Hague? You might be visiting it.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
I mean it's that level, right? Jesus.
It is. I mean, it really is. You literally created like people to find out how things would have gone should it have not gone the way that you had hoped or expected, and it's just like, wow, that's like next level awful. you're pretty terrible people. So like there was this real thing when you're going across the map and you're like, wow, Kainang is basically what happened in Terminator. And then you're with all these stories. The dwarf areas, I'm like, just makes me sad because I'm like, they're alive. How dare you? And like,
I mean,
you know
but Jab,
what I
it
mean?
shouldn't make you sad because, as they tell us, they are truly manifested physical living beings again. So technically,
true.
there is a flesh and blood dwarven population again.
That
It's
is
just
true.
what they're going to do with them is
We'll
the
be
big question
vibing.
mark.
Yeah, we're gonna be playable
Why not
characters.
just give them like a nice little vacation spot to live in instead? You know?
Yeah.
a vacation spot?
Yeah.
Can I
Kind of
ask you guys a
wondering.
question? Right.
Yeah.
So
Only one.
Sure.
when I okay, fine. Right. So when I first so just got in, just talking to people, going around the first map and the interactions, I thought my first impression of Isgaran, because he's mentioned in the first part of the story and everything like that. Spoilers. Sorry, but it's the first map and it's the introduction to the story. He's first mentioned there.
Yeah, it's okay.
My first impression of Isgaran was, oh my god, he is a monster. He is a terrible, terrible person, terrible entity, right? Did you guys get that impression, or was it just me? Like it felt like he was manipulating everybody.
I think he's the secret of the obscure. There's a lot of interest. So when you said Dag does your favorite character in the entire game, I feel like I feel like the Isgaran thinks Isgaran is my favorite character in this story because I think there's a lot going on there, and I think
Yeah.
over the course of the expansion that hasn't been revealed yet, we're going to learn a lot more about him and his dealings, and I think there's a lot of depth there. And when you get into the depth, I think there might be some darkness because that's how it goes sometimes, especially with a very old
Yes.
person.
Oh yeah, we
I
want the
didn't-
darkness. Give me the dark.
I didn't instantly hate him or like feel a certain way about this whole operation and how they were going about it. It of course is very immoral, and you are hit with that sentiment right off the bat with the NPCs talking about it. But then when you look at it from that character's perspective and the pursuit of keeping Tyria a safe place, the whole reason why they are doing this, it does cause them to question, like, these were isolated fractals and they were on loop and they were self-contained things, but now that they are out and they are totally continuing on in this timeline, it is like, it is bad, but there's also like, was this essential? Was this necessary? Did this need to happen? Mayhaps, because then they could then decide which one and which event was in need of their intervention or not. So it is, it's not entirely gray. It's a little bit darker, but there is like a light side to it where I'm like, okay, like I can hear what you're saying about the reasonings, but
I mean,
you know.
how egomaniacal do you have to be to consider yourself the grand arbiter of what is an appropriate timeline or not? I mean, hello.
Makes me think of several movies.
Yeah, that's a lot of ego, you know?
I mean, that's the yeah.
It'll literally
But he
playing
wasn't
God.
alone. But
Yeah.
I think that's one thing, is that he's not alone in this endeavor. Because while the Astral Ward are now being more, conscious about it, they did go along with it, and they did decide that this was probably the best course of action, not only for their endeavors of fighting off threats, but for Tyria as a whole, and maybe their family back in Central Tyria.
And like,
Scary levels of deference, just saying.
I think when you just said there is literally playing God, I think that has a bigger connotation, a much different connotation in Tyria. And I think you're right. because I think possibly the coalition here, the wizards people, are, you know, godlike powers in a way. They are on the same level, I would say, as a lot of the human gods, at least. Maybe not like individual power level, but as a whole, they kind of operate in the same sphere, you know. So.
And Fornax, you kind of did get your Guardians of the Gate, but at what cost?
I mean,
Yeah.
there's so much there. I think it's not an easily answered thing, right? Because when we look at the use of simulation in our own existence, right? Simulations oftentimes being able to, you know, predict or assess a variable outcome. In a way, what they're doing is very similar, but of course, then you're getting into the actual question of the stuff of reality. Like, what is real? What are real people? Like, if these alternate worlds, if they draw some kind of differentiation between the manifestations that have happened in the first map zone, right? Where now we see many of them grappling with, well, they're flesh and blood, they are real now. So we have to figure out what we're going to do with them. And even when you get to like the Wizard Tower, there's some great dialogue if you go to that little area where there are like refugees that are hanging out with like some more flesh and blood dwarves. And like there is a person there who's saying like, no, we can't just like send them back. I don't even know how that would work. And they are real people now, so we have to figure out how to deal with this. So like, what is the differentiation there? Because reality, again, is something that is like subjective. If they are people and they have their own, we're like in the Matrix at this point, you know, if they are people and they have their own lived experience, they, you know, suffer, it's so hard because like, it's a big morally gray area. And then we see these as well being used for things that perhaps could be quantified as good, not just suffering, not just, you know, terrors or calamitous situations that are enacted, but things like how can we restore the wildlife of Maguma after the horrific devastation that's been enacted upon it? What happens if, you know, various parts of civilization that were annihilated before their time were able to manifest, were able to evolve, were able to grow? And how could that particular, the innovations, the things that never were, how could they benefit? Of course, then you have a greater question of, well, who do they benefit? Is it really only the wizards? Is it something that will be used for the betterment of all of Tyria? Does any one person really equipped to be in charge of that? And what do you do if you've essentially let an entire civilization and multiple generations of people exist? Because then again, we return to the, well, they're real though, right? But like, is it good that there are real dwarves now? Like,
yes, of course it's good.
Yeah,
Don't be silly.
Good.
There is no bad to that.
I mean, yeah, it's very fascinating because I don't think there are easy answers with it. And I think that there can be a lot of arguments made for it.
Here's a question for you. Is Tyria just a fractal?
I mean, okay, so here's the thing. It's not a fractal. Not a fractal as the definition of a fractal, but it does that. This whole discussion does raise the question of the nature of what everything is in this world. And I think remember before SOTO came out and I had that idea of, well, it seems like what the writers are trying to tell us is that everything in this universe is formed from exactly is formed from magical mist energy, and strong beings are able to coalesce this energy into realms. Tyria is one of these realms. It's a much larger realm than some of the ones we know, and create order out of chaos. And people, in a sense, are really just coalesced magic as well. And their spirits
stardust.
go back to other places afterwards.
Shall we test that logic then? So
Okay.
we are literally
wait.
made of stardust, right?
Yeah.
We are literally made of the stuff of stars. The only place in this universe where heavy elements are made are in supernova.
Yeah.
So are you saying that it's whatever, YOLO, the out of everything, and human life has no purpose because E = MC²? Because
No.
that sounds a little bit like what you think.
I mean, if
My
you want to take
Canadian
that out of it,
friend.
that's fine with me. If you want to take that out of it.
Can we get back
think
to the
that
map
is-
discussion?
No, listen.
Sorry, this is about the map, Jebro.
I mean,
I think-
it's vaguely about the map, maybe, Kroof, but I don't know.
This is the whole
You know
story of the
what?
map.
No.
Is it, though? I mean, I guess so.
I would make an argument that this is literally the map. This is literally the map.
I mean,
There
yeah.
is an
True.
entire NPC. There's an entire NPC who you literally speak to about the nature of fractals and the morality of them.
That's right.
As you go around to the different areas, there are multiple NPCs that you can speak with. There are multiple, like, this map is that question. It is that discussion. And it is within this magical setting an incredible thing, because honestly, whether or not it's right or wrong, Boots, I think one of these wizards could easily make the argument, if nothing is ever truly destroyed, if all matter is just magic and it is taking some shape or another, then are we committing true atrocities by doing this if we will all return to this anyway and one day reemerge? I think that's absolutely a point that could be argued. Like, there's a lot of
Reincarnation.
different
Well,
perspectives.
I don't
of this.
actually know if that's necessarily the case. I think the point of the Wizard Tower and the point of what all the ward is doing is trying to maintain order.
Yes.
So that these realms and that
Well,
you
they're
know
testing
cycle, I guess you
different
could say.
outcomes, right? Like in case
Yeah.
of, like it's the what ifs.
Right,
of
in this map,
Marvel
yeah,
universe.
that's what this
it's
map
the what
is,
ifs
yeah.
of the Marvel universe. Like that's what it is. Like, you know, what happens if Agent Carter becomes Captain America, for example? You know, it's those
Captain
kinds of
Britain.
questions.
Captain Britain.
Sorry.
I
Yes, sorry.
also
I can't remember what it's
appreciate
called.
that within Skywatch Archipelago, the fractals are not all bad outcomes. We have the Rada Novus, right? And also the
Yep.
Maguma
Yeah.
area, where they weren't destroyed or their civilization didn't end. They actually thrived. The
Yes.
Maguma area, the magic, thrived and was going about its natural course.
I don't know.
The Asuran-
Kainang might have something to say about that.
No, that's what I'm saying, that it wasn't all bad. That they were all...
Kainang.
in terms of what was shown, in terms of creating this idea of morally gray, that it wasn't all bad outcomes in terms of seeing what would happen. And if they were all bad and they were, every NPC in those regions were like totally decimated and, rallying with grief and this shock. But then you have these moments where it's like just the natural landscape and the natural creatures of like the chalk and the arrowheads and the stoneheads. And they're just like doing their natural thing, and you're like, oh, they're actually really good. Like, they're thriving.
There's some good events there in the maps as well. Like the events, like, there's the one where you have to oh god, there's all the dwarfs and they're like fighting amongst each other, and you like end up challenging them to fights, like, and you just end up fighting these random dwarfs and stuff, and then you're helping Leah like craft this. And actually the meta is really good. I actually really enjoy the meta in that map. I really like the meta in that map, to be fair. It was just kind of, it wasn't like really long-winded as well. Like, I appreciate the fact that there's different parts, and you go to different parts of the map, and you can also, contribute to it wherever to gain essence, so that you can craft this thing and blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to say anything else I don't want to spoil everything. But the meta's quite fun, other than the bug early on, but they've sorted it out.
That is an interesting, well, at least in terms of talking about it in chat. What are your favorite fractal islands? Personally, I love the desert area.
Really? Interesting. You're wrong, but...
And I hate deserts. That's the thing. Path of Fire was not my vibe, but I really like this fractal of...
what was it
it's
you liked
actually
about it?
it's Deslana. It's none of the regions that we visited in Path of Fire. It's an area that we didn't get to, which I was like, that even was more exciting for me, because they're just like, ooh, a place we've never been to, but is on the map.
My favorite is the first island, the Wizard's Ascent, the starting island, because it's got the target practice adventure on it.
Gosh.
It's your favorite because it's got an adventure on it that you like. At least
It's the
that
only
makes
one with an
sense.
adventure on the map.
You know what I'm gonna say, so
Oh, the dwarf one, yeah, for sure.
it makes sense. It was like, which one was the one? Because it was just like immediate. I was not expecting that. Like, it was not something I was expecting at all. Like just randomly seeing dwarfs again, like seeing the dwarf in the first place, that was cool. And then having an entire dwarf map area, and that was before I hadn't done any of the stories. I didn't know they were fractals, so I thought they were just like gonna come back. And so I got pretty damn excited about that for a start. So that was pretty awesome. I actually really like them all for different varying reasons. I think, you know, they've all got, I think, you know, Iscaran, like, you know, not Iscaran, what's he called, the town?
Garenhoff?
Garenhoff.
Oh, Garenhoff.
That was really good. Like the events there where you're just kind of rescuing people, it's on fire, and it's literally on fire. And
I like the soaring area a little bit.
Yeah.
Soaring area. Yeah. I mean, the Dwarven location is so cool. Plus, it's also, as far as I understand, a throwback to Guild Wars 1, right?
Yes,
Eye of the
with the
North. It's
statue.
like the major
It's almost identical.
Dwarven city, which is awesome. And that was really cool. Radanovus, I really liked seeing. I thought that was also very interesting. And I have so many questions about, like, how their harnessing of the ley line and other power is like different from what we've seen with the evolution of Asura elsewhere, because there's an effect there that's very similar almost to Oreen, that kind of like prismatic rainbow sort of effect. It makes me wonder how over the course of their development as a society, what their understanding of ley magic came to be, and if that might shed any other insights into even stuff as Oreen grapples with, like, how do I be a filter for all of this stuff now. I love any of the areas that have sky scale roosts. I thought those were so cute. And I really like in the first area, like you were talking about, Boots, that zone. I love the little like sky scale roost that's up in that main tower. If you like go up in there, I think that's cool. And all of the details in that area for the wizards and in the wizards tower itself are just so great. Like there's so many lore books, all these like interesting little things. I love seeing all the wizards meditating around. Like, to me, I really loved that, although I think each of the different areas really give a little something that, you know, piques your curiosity or is interesting to discover. So I don't know. I like them all for different reasons, kind of like you said, Jeb. I think maybe the only one that I'm like kind of like about is maybe the Kaineng area.
Yeah.
Like it's fine.
It was the most recent expansion.
Yeah, I mean it was the most recent.
Yeah.
We were just there.
There's no nostalgia.
Yeah, and I didn't really feel like the I would have been even more curious to see them push it further, I think, for it to have a bigger impact on me. Like to really see it be a robot landscape, you know, where like they had, you know, markedly changed many of the buildings, and
they should have
like
had Borg style, like
like
that
Borg
would've been
style. That's a good way to put it.
sick.
Where you can
That would've been
almost
so
see
sick.
more of that encroachment of technology and that lack of organic life necessity. Like, I think if it had been more like that, or even if they had put some people in the city that, like, were trying to do something like overthrow the robots, or like if you, you know, saw people being oppressed instead of the robots or something.
Oh, for sure.
Like, I think it would have stood out a little bit more to me. I still think it's a cool spot. But I didn't feel like, since it was so fresh in my memory, it didn't feel like it was really pushed to the full boundary of being like, here is an alternate universe for this thing that really contrasts with what you just saw in End of Dragons,
I
right?
like Smudgem's suggestion, Jade's Cyberman situation from Doctor Who, which is where the Borg come from for sure. Like, you know, that is, I did get those Terminator vibes of like, you know, robotic kind of future, but like it does feel a bit barren as well, which I get, because I think in a robot society the area would be kind of barren because like it's all automated, right? So it was interesting seeing that, seeing how they approached that. But I agree, that would have been cool. It would have been really dark if we'd seen like humans walking around with like robot body parts and like speaking like in robot like language and just stuff like 001 or whatever. But like, that would have been rad. Actually, that would have been cool.
I love another reason why I love, besides the adventure in the first map, the fact that they brought back the Wizard's Folly Tower as the Beacon of Ages.
Yes.
So cool. So cool.
Lots of cool stuff.
Do you have?
I would have loved to have seen.
Yeah.
Oh, I would have loved to have seen them actually us be able to rescue some of the Canthans who were being sent to the execution centers that they'd set up. They're always announcing, please head quietly to the execution center this way.
Oh,
Mind
I
the
missed
step.
that.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's very dark,
Oh,
and it would
okay.
be nice to be able to rescue some of the people. Yeah.
Okay, that is dark
Yeah.
then.
I don't know
deeply
the answer to
dark.
this because I don't think I've played it enough. Do you know if any of the people on the islands are able to leave their islands?
They are.
They are.
And
They
then
are,
talks
yeah.
to people. I don't think you see. Do you see them in different areas? I think you do in the.
Yeah, there's in the medical
tower.
center. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can. I just don't know whether or not they are allowed to leave this map. That
Well,
makes
the
sense.
wizards would be the ones in charge of it. It seems
Yeah.
like they have fully manifested. They are flesh and
Yeah,
blood
they exist.
entities, like with their own, agency or life or death kind of thing. But
they
yeah, it
let
seems
them
like the
go.
wizards would be the ones that, kind of dictate that and sort of the crossroads that they're at right now to try and figure out what do we do. Do we bring these people into our order? What if they have thoughts about what we were doing?
I think
Like,
I could definitely see the dwarves getting a little engineering and make themselves parachutes and just jump off and then go all the way down to
I
Tyria.
hope so. I mean, that would be sick because I would be up. The thing I thought was that if they were getting it, and I know this isn't going to happen, and I know it's like unicorns and whatever, dinosaurs. I'm not sure why dinosaurs are a thing now. I'm watching too much Rick and Morty. But like, you may not have seen that episode. It's pretty good. They are the rulers of the entire universe. I'm just saying.
Oh,
But this
yeah, I
would have been a
remember that.
great opportunity. Good stuff. This would have been a good opportunity, like a really fun place to have like an intro island for new races. Like to start at 80. Like imagine being brought into the game as a dwarf. Like that was just born out of a fractal.
Oh, that's what they
That's
could do.
interesting. I like that.
oh, that would have
what
been
they
so
could
cool.
have done. And this is what I
Yeah.
was thinking during this. They could have done that with any race. They could have done it with any race.
Tengu.
Then they could do it in future. This gives them an
yeah.
opportunity. I think it
What
would
if
be.
they had an underwater fractal island with the Largos?
Well, there are
That would have been
Largos,
interesting.
Like, as well.
There are
like
Largos,
wizards.
yeah.
There are Largos here. So, and there are more maps. Like, it doesn't mean. Maybe there are more fractals.
And with
islands
the
that
new
I've not seen.
water tech of placing water in various levels on map geography, they could have like a fractal entirely cased in water that you enter and you just start swimming and that like transition.
Would be interesting.
That would be amazing.
So this is the thing.
Do you-
It's really interesting ideas they've had with this. I think it gives them a lot of potential.
And it would be so simple too to just do some kind of introductory story thing for that, right? Where like, however you're going to integrate it, you show up, and rather than it being something like, oh, you're the commander and you have all this history, they could just instead modify some of the dialogue and things and just be like, I mean, yeah, like you were created. Oh, we're in trouble. Okay, well, here's this thing. And then you could theoretically just continue from there. I mean, of course, depending on how they want to tie this into everything, maybe there's greater story deviations that would be, would make it more difficult, but it does seem like a good spot for it.
Or even if, I mean, I think there's that classic thing of like, if you bring new races into an MMORPG, do they have to go through all the same things that you went through with an original character? Because you're starting later in the game, you can just, I mean, what is it? World of Warcraft did it with Death Knights, right? Like you just started
Correct.
you were changed back into, you can choose your side essentially, which is rad. Like it was so good. I remember like I didn't play much of Wrath unfortunately, but I wish I had. But like, man,
Bloody good expansion.
I have a feeling though.
was such a
I
good
mean,
idea.
for World of Warcraft is
I don't wanna
maybe I
go
just
too-
wasn't following it properly, but I feel like they have it a little bit easier in that your character in World of Warcraft isn't really a main character, isn't really like.
True.
It depends
But it
which
certainly doesn't
expansion.
feel like a main
It
character. Holy
depends which
shit.
expansion
Yeah.
you play. If you play Azeroth, like Azeroth you felt kind of.
I feel like with that, you kind
important.
of have to just suspend belief of like you're playing it for the sake of the aesthetics and for the fun, and
Yeah.
that also goes into another change they're doing with this expansion is that you're known as the Wayfinder rather than Commander. And I'm kind of preferring that terminology over Commander. And it seems like they keep like towing that line. They'll oftentimes say like Commander, Wayfinder. So it's very interesting, and I wonder if they're going to stick with one over the other. And I kind of would just prefer Wayfinder because it's a bit more ambiguous.
You're in. You're a commander. You're a Wayfinder. You're Bob.
Maybe they'll just like create a new terminology for each expansion.
For each expansion. What's the next one? You're gonna be fisherman.
Adventurer.
Yeah, fisherman.
Fisherman. There you go. Fisherman boots.
Manager. They'll be calling for the manager.
Yeah, there's gonna be an
Can we
entire
speak with the manager?
expansion. Yeah, there's gonna be an entire expansion when you literally manage like a Char rock band.
Oh my god.
And you go on tour with them, and that's the entire
intern.
expansion. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say as well, because we've been going almost for 2 hours. A final thing, like we've talked about the map, and I'm wondering whether or not the vault conversation is a longer conversation, because it's a conversation I want to have.
I want to talk about the vault.
I
love the vault.
I think it might be too long for this podcast. I don't know. What do we think, people?
I don't think it has to be that long.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be.
It doesn't need to be
long.
super long.
Okay, all right. Let's
I
have
just
it.
really
finish on the
enjoy
vault
it.
then. Okay, well, so if the vault, does anyone want to explain? I'm sure someone's got some footage about this.
Really fast.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, because I realized that we didn't completely hit on it. But I enjoy the map meta on this map. I think it's nice, it's short, it's sweet, it's a good quick one to like toss in with other things, and I think it's a nice contrast. Because we didn't talk about the actual meta on that map, but I think it has some great moments. Did you?
A little bit.
Yes, I did.
Like a little bit.
A little bit.
I did.
Also, my favorite zone is
said it was
Dagda's
easy.
area. Dagda's
One
area
just
is my favorite part.
Oh.
Stag is your favorite. Yeah, it's good.
No, the area on the map where Dagda's
Her.
I don't know,
yeah, that, like,
enclosure.
The
Dome
observatory.
It's
Yeah.
like an observatory or something.
I've been showing
Yeah,
the
I
map
love the
meta
Jotun.
footage in the background. Well, we've been
Yeah, I've loved the Jotun since I did the crafting the Bifrost, which is all to do with the Jotun. So yeah, it's been a while, but yeah, it's amazing to get more lore about them.
This was one little thing too that I wanted to mention that I thought was awesome. As we look at the footage on the screen right now, and for anybody listening, we're watching the sort of big split fight at the end.
Yes.
The fact that the platforms are marked. They have markers on them innately. So you have like your, what is it, like 1, 2, 3 or whatever. And that way it makes it a lot easier so that you can just see the platform if you like fall off of it without having to like look down at your map and try to like reorient yourself or things. And B, because then the actual like commanders and things, rather than having to be like, go north, northeast, northwest, go south, they're literally just like, go to 1, go to 2.
They added that in Dragon's End actually years ago, and I think they've just been doing that since. Is it Dragon's? Not Dragon's End.
or Stand?
Dragon Stand.
Right, I did that a long
They had
time
so
ago.
many islands though, they had to number them.
Yeah, they had like, what was it,
But it
9 or
hasn't.
something?
I haven't noticed it all too often since then.
No,
Yeah, they
So I
you
like
need
this
it,
content
need it
then.
now. This is more of the same, isn't it? Because there's like 4 or 5 islands, wasn't there? 4, something like that.
Honestly,
Certainly
if there was one tweak that I would love to see is for them to put raid markers into groups, just into a normal group. You make a normal group and you can use raid markers. I would really like that. There's been so many occasions, especially if you're doing like end tier fractals, where people are trying to learn the encounter and you're trying to show them where they need to stand for stuff. Yeah, that would be lovely.
Good point.
Sorry.
Right, let's talk about the map. Let's talk about the vault. Has anyone talked about it in a video? I can use footage. Because then
I think you might be the only one.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
I did a literal video on it. Excellent. Well done. Thanks, Griff. Cheers for
You're
that.
welcome.
just pumped
I'm
that out.
everyone's biggest fan.
You are the best. You are the best. Yeah, I pumped it out and it wasn't very in depth, and I just added loads of notes to it. But the vault, thank you very much. Wow, that's embarrassing. So the vault system is probably one of the best systems that has come into Guild Wars 2 since launch. I think, personally.
Yes.
It is wicked. For many reasons. Kroof, I've talked about in my video, which I'm going to link. But why do you like it?
I like it because you can get stuff. You can get a
mean, yeah.
lot of stuff in the
That's it,
Wizard's
right?
Vault. I think it is one of the most rewarding features of the game at the moment for a plethora of different content types, from pure cosmetics to crafting to user features with build expansions, increasing your account buffs and essence. They have so many different items that you can personally decide to pick up. You're not forced to go through a track and have to pick up every little bit. You can save up all of your astral acclaim, which is the currency that you get from doing dailies and weeklies, and then you can decide what you want to pick up. And I have picked up quite a few items, and I actually got my legendary sword, Bolt, through doing and picking up the legendary starter kit, which gives you about 2.5, like over half of the needed materials to create a legendary.
Really?
And Boots, I was gonna say, no, yeah, it gives you the precursor. It gives you a gift of might or magic.
It gives you 500 gold worth of stuff.
Yes,
That's a lot.
I was able to get
crap.
it within a few days of purchasing the precursor or the legendary starter kit. It is so
core ones,
beneficial.
Right? It's the core ones.
They're
right?
currently doing the core ones. You can only choose from 4 at a time. So we currently in this rotation have the pistol, the scepter, the staff, and the sword. Next,
those
vault
are
cycle.
technically all the exact 4 legendary weapons on the trading post that are the least expensive.
Coincidentally, I don't know why they'd be so low in price at the moment, but
Yeah, it's weird.
Next, Wizards Vault will probably cycle in 4 others from Gen 1.
They
At
won't
least
be
that's what I
doing the
expect.
ones. They won't do the Heart of Thorns ones with the achievements, though, will they?
I think it'd be nice if they did.
I don't
Yeah.
think they should.
Some of
I
them
say, why
don't have
not?
achievements. Some of them are just a grind.
but
They
like
kind
some
of gave
the
up
grind,
on that.
But if they've got the achievements where they've made the effort with the store, I actually think they should keep those unique still. Mostly because I'm doing them.
Well, there it is. There it is.
No.
I mean-
I actually think they're unique in that adventure. Like that, I think they should be skins like that, where it's like you have to go through this adventure, which is pretty. It's not difficult. It's just long. It's just like a lot of, and they're really good. It's really good content as well. Like it would feel cheap to have that as like. Did you go through like the tasks and the story and the lore and all this kind of stuff, like building these things? It'd be kind of fairly gutting if like you could just get it through this.
Well, they could change up what they give you for that specific
Maybe like just give you a
legendary.
shed load of wood because that's what
Yeah,
you need.
give
for
you
some
all
of
of the
them.
masteries. Because at this, from Gen 1, they give you the precursor, they give
Right.
you a gift, and I think one other thing that's really good. But they don't give you a gift of exploration, which you need to craft Legendary 1, and that Legendary journey is map completing the entire game. Maybe for Gen 2, they don't give you the precursor, which that's the journey you have to go on for those specific legendaries. But they could give you like Gift of Maguma, the other things that would require a lot of time to acquire.
Yeah.
So they could just mix
Actually,
it up.
it's just Corteria. It's just Corteria. It's not the entire game that you have to do map completion on. It's just Corteria.
Yes, just Corteria.
Sorry,
The
don't
entire
be scared, people.
vanilla.
7 people just fainted in the chat. No, it's
You
fine,
have to
darling,
map
it's
complete, which at one point was the entire game.
fine. True.
Minus World versus World. Yeah, but even then that was there.
No,
for a
it
little
was.
bit.
It was including World
yeah,
versus World
at the very
because
beginning,
they hated
didn't they?
us. They
And they changed
they
it.
did. Yeah,
That was a
little
good
bit.
time.
Yeah, the vault. I love it. It's so good. Now the dailies and weeklies, which is attached to that system.
Okay. I mean,
don't mind.
the rewards. I think rewards-wise, I think you're right. There was the run that you did like a really, really good tier list, and like people copied them and did like a bunch of it, like did the same content again and just had it different videos. But like there's like the legendary weapon starter kit is really, really good, and there's the build template as well, which I think is really is it the build template that is in there as well? Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's another one, and so there are actual like things which you can purchase from the trading post from the Black Lion Trading Company in there, and they've actually rolled in some of the old rewards from the dailies, like when you get the 30 days in a row, there's like the account gold bonus, there's the Black Lion and Mastery coffers, there's revive orbs, there's crafting bags, and it really is good because depending on what you need, I think this is why it's good. So those tier lists that people have created, like for maximum value, are great. You can actually pick out what you need for the current time, because there's like mystic coins in there, right? Like Mystic coins are really, really good.
And clovers.
Clovers, yes. Vision
And
crystals.
horseshoes, clovers, and blue moons.
And
skins.
extractors, which never should have been on the Black Lion trading post in the first place. But that's a different story.
That's true. You got
Thank you for taking the teeth
shards.
out of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
will
skins
say,
as well. With
when it-
skins which
True,
you may
true.
not actually like are on there.
Yeah, but I mean, that's
and
what's
you
gonna
can-
happen,
You don't
right?
have to, right? Yeah.
You don't
I
have to
love
buy
the
them.
sanctified weapons. Don't wash
I
your
don't like
mouth
the
out. The
I don't like
sanctified
the
weapons
armor.
are beautiful.
I don't
Oh,
mind
the
the
armor
weapons.
is a little.
I don't mind
the armor's
weapons.
more
But the
muted.
emote is wicked.
I mean, yeah, but that's the beauty of the system, right? You can pick
Exactly.
and choose what you want.
Exactly.
And all that stuff is just going to get cataloged and logged so that,
So
like,
if at some
even
point you want it, you can get it, but you don't
Yeah.
have to get it now.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love this system. I mean, there have been some bumps with it. And I encourage everybody just to be patient, give feedback, submit like official reports when things seem to be bugged or stuff like that. You know, be again a balanced critiquer and not somebody that's just like frothing at the mouth, raving about it online, like in a nasty way. Like, because the thing is
I like
that Guild Wars
description.
2 does have a lot of unusual content in it. It just does. It has a lot of unique things. It has a lot of stuff that, like, hey, they might want to highlight, they might want to show off. And because they are creating options for all game modes, that means that they're going to have to look at a lot of things. We've had some issues with that, obviously, with certain events that have been bugged for a very long time, which, hey, maybe now it's going to pop up even more on their feed that those things need to be addressed. But there might also be more of a reason for them to address them at this point. Like, if they see that people are actually trying to do that, it's a worthy investment probably to go in and try to spend the time now to fix some of those things. If they see that the Wizard's Vault is indeed getting people to engage with a lot of these other pieces of older content or various things like that, again, it might give them more impetus for it. And I mean, a lot of the other stuff has been pretty good. I think the initial complaints were mostly just like, hey, I wish that we maybe had a few more options for dailies kind of things, or I mean, like for like those, you know, sorts of categories, dailies, weeklies. Especially because the big sort of, I guess, surprise, if you will, was just that, like, if you selected multiple types, you know, you were interested in World versus World and PvE, they expected you to want to play World versus World every day for that, or, you know, stuff like that. So again, these are little tweaks that from having the system be implemented and seeing how players are responding to it, I have no doubt that they are going to make it and keep working on. But like, the system itself is great. It incentivizes so much more for you to engage with things, try things, play things, save up, get rewards, do legendaries if you didn't want to engage with them previously. And it also eases some of the pressure from the Black Lion Trading Company, and it gives us some other options to get those things organically through the game and through gameplay. And so for me, it's a huge win, and a lot of the little bumps are things that, like, calm down, you can save this currency for all time. There's no FOMO. You can buy all this stuff for all time too. So, like, we have to give them a little bit of time to iron stuff out, and
I think
you know,
that's the
then we
best
can
part
see.
of it. The no FOMO bit is really important, because that is why,
Absolutely.
like, this is why I've been farming New World so hard, because if I don't get this chess piece, which is the level 100 / chapter 5 completion level, because I had to kill 500 Dune Walkers, like, you know, it was just like I wasn't going to get that. And it's not necessarily that I wanted the skin, it's just because I can't get it again. So if I really want it in the future, I can't. And I think that is one of the best parts of this. I think, like, you're right, there is, you know, someone said, you know, costing a lot of astral acclaim for like an obsidian shard. All that stuff is like, we could, like, they're gonna work that out. I'm not really bothered about that. It's
hope
more the content you're completing for the actual dailies. This system is just by and far, like, just a shed load better than the daily system we had before, where you'd had to go to so many different zones to do these things. It was just not engaging. Like, you know, it just wasn't engaging at all. There's no, like, the UI pops up in the top, you log in, boom, oh, there's a sparkly thing. Oh, I get some astral acclaim. I've already got one of my 4 dailies done, and I can get these rewards for this thing. If you don't know much about what's going on in the game right now, that's already engaged you in the daily process, which is great. But, like, there's just so much they can do in the future, and they can engage in future rewards, past skins, past stuff, but they've just really got to make that system more live rather than, because you can reset all of those dailies and weeklies if you like to reselect which content you want to do, but it takes if it's a daily it takes 24 hours to reset, and if it's a weekly it takes a week to reset. Whereas in other games, if you're in Fortnite as an example, if you want to switch those dailies because you don't really want to do that content that day, you can do that instantaneously, but you can only get a certain amount of chances where you can reset that specific task. And I think if they can bring that into the game, that will make it even more fun for people, because they will be playing the content they want to play. Because I picked PvP and PvE, and at the moment I'm like, oh, I didn't really want to play like 10 games of PvP this week because it kind of makes me mad. But I really want to play PvP still to a certain degree. But there is some really, really good dailies in there, like, you know, get a top stat, which isn't too difficult because you can just res people. Or like, you know, kill 2 people in a team, like kill like 5 people, which is just contribution. Or have a team fight. Like, that's it. Have a team fight. It's pretty easy. Like, you could just go into an unranked game and just do a team fight, for example. It's really, really good. The World v World dailies, though, are pretty long-winded. So I didn't pick any of those because they were just too long.
And some of the weeklies I find to be too short. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy.
I'm not going to complain about too short weeklies.
I don't mind.
No, I will.
Some of them are long.
Because it does create a disparity between what people.
What about the
are
too short
incentivized.
Specials?
The specials are their own niche thing, and they're kind of just every Wizard cycle there's going to be special.
They're seasonal specific, and they're specific to story as well. They're specific to the content that's in the game for that season. So this is the whole part of it, right? Like, they're like season passes in other games. There is going to be part of it which is very specific to the story, and which is also not available to people who don't have the expansion. So that's what that's about, right? Because they can't do that because they can't even go there to do the achievement with the friend thing with the sky scale. So they have to buy the expansion. So that's a good way of enticing people in to get more Astral Acclaim, but they can still get a ton of it if they're not got any of the expansions. They don't actually have to, because if I am not sure if you can do the vault stuff if you've got a free account.
Yes.
Cool. Okay.
Yes.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's pretty awesome, honestly. I mean, can you 100%? I don't know. I don't actually know.
Yeah, it's a core system that was introduced.
Okay. Well, that's wicked, because you can get build. That's actually really good value. That's ridiculous. That's actually really top notch. Wicked. Okay. I didn't actually know that. That's cool.
But yeah, I would like a little bit more dailies to even just do baseline, because I think someone did the math and you actually cannot purchase everything in the vault with the amount of time that we have to acquire Astral Acclaim until it resets.
It's always going to be there though, right?
But it will go up in price.
Anyway. Well, that's good.
It will go up
because,
in price next.
I mean, you're going to get to a point where you bought everything, right? I guess. I mean...
Well, realistically, with how often it is going to be recycling, and if this cadence does continue, there'll probably be quite a few options in there that will begin to pile up on top of people. And it will that's why they are adding one more daily option, I think, in the next patch, or at least they're going to do something soon. Nice. To give you, I think that would give you an extra 10 Astral Acclaim that you could get. I think right now it's an okay amount, but I'm just wondering if they could add even more just to increase that in the future.
To make you want to engage in the system more, you think?
Just doing dailies and weeklies and all that stuff.
But are you gonna even want to purchase everything in the store?
Not necessarily, but in terms of longevity, in terms of the amount of items that you can acquire, and the amount of Astral Acclaim that you get,
I think
it feels fine right now.
I think there's a good balance to it though, right? Because if it always feels like you're going to have to be engaging in the system quite continuously, rather than you can't just farm it all out. Because I think there is that. I think the people that might be sad about that just want to farm it out and get it done.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily farming, but I do find the amount of dailies that we currently have to be quite low and restrictive, which was one reason why people were quite upset with the daily category specifically. At least the weekly, you have 2 additional ones, because you only need 6, but you have 8 that you can complete.
Oh, you mean extra choices of, right, okay, so you can get extra bits.
And that actually still progresses your Astral Acclaim.
Yeah, true.
Can I ask you a question?
Ooh,
What did you think
two
about
questions?
I know
Calm
two.
down.
Oh my god. Sorry. What did you think of the new Griffin mount skin
I've got it.
being an astral of
used it,
claim
actually.
rather than being for a story achievement?
I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with
I'm
it.
fine with it.
I'm totally fine with it.
I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing
They
them
need
add
both.
mount skins and stuff in for story stuff.
I mean, you
but we do
can,
have
can't you, for the Sky Scale, technically?
this guy's done.
yeah.
Yeah. I honestly love getting skins in any way. And I think that incentivizing play, like, you know, and saying, hey, like, let's actually do like more like mechanical play and other things like that, and giving a reward for something like that, I personally really like it. I don't want them to like not put any mount skins in the story, but I also think that not every player necessarily wants rewards to just be tied only to things like story, you know?
True.
And it is technically still just earnable in game, so.
And with the special Astral Claim, you get a lot of Astral Claim by completing the story and going through the expansion. So in a weird way, you're actually getting the mount faster by doing the story and playing the expansion.
Right. So yeah, I would say my favorite, the way I've been interacting with it so far is exactly how I thought I was going to do it, which is not pay attention to it until there's like a little exclamation mark in my top left-hand corner, and then I click on it and I'm like, oh, look at that. I got stuff. And then I noticed the special tab and I clicked on that. And that's where it got it. Like, I think that tab, the special tab, makes things pretty interesting. It like, I think it's a great way for ArenaNet to point people towards content that is interesting and good. And I think that they should continue using it. Maybe not necessarily just for like, you know, you were saying, Jebro, that it's the current content that we're doing and pointing it towards the current. So yes, that's good. I think they should do that, but I think they should also maybe point towards some older content that people maybe miss that's very interesting and good too, because why not?
Possibly. Absolutely. That'd be a good idea. I was just showing the mount off. It looks good.
I think it's so unfortunate that one of the first, I think it was a weekly that led us to Echoval, and a particularly buggy mini dungeon was kind of tragic. And a lot of people were rather salty. I did not get the achievement despite doing the dungeon like 3 times. So I was a little bit of salt.
I was lucky.
Super salt.
Well, the first
Super
weekly.
salt.
What, with the vase bag?
I think it was the daily. I was able,
I got that one.
which made it worse because it was like you only had 24 hours to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I didn't realize I was bugged.
And that's been bugged for a while.
Yeah.
A little bit of time.
And I was worried. I was like, I hope the Desolation meta event is not a weekly, because that.
Oh, I really
been
loved
bugged
that. I
for a
loved that
long
being a
time.
thing. That was like, I was in the map and there was a whole group of people and we're all like, it was the best times to do it. It was like either when it first hits or when it's just about to close or end. So like there was a bunch of people just ready
For
to
the
go do
mini
it.
dungeon?
Oh no, for the Desolation event.
Oh my god.
What Desolation?
Sorry, I'm looking at
Oh,
chat.
you-
Wait,
there
the
was a
Maw of
Des-
Torment?
Yeah.
They had the Maw of Torment meta event on one of those?
Yeah.
That shit is so bugged.
Oh no,
That
it
has
works.
never
It was fine.
completed in like months.
Yeah, it's completed. It was fine. It was
Wait,
working.
which event? The Maw of Torment?
Yeah, it was the Maw of Torment.
Did they fix it? Finally?
Well, yeah.
God, I sent like 5 bug reports over the past like 5 months.
Is
That you
Maw of
did
Torment?
it. Kroof, you did it, Kroof.
You were the one who fixed
It was
it.
you.
Hooray! Congratulations. I think it was more of Torment. Is that
I
the
didn't
one
read
where
it. I didn't read it.
they've got you go into the forge bit area and you have to like fight the boss, close the portals and stuff.
Yes. It's the big spiky fortress thing. It's like in the air and not in the air, but yeah. Anyways,
Rocky Spiky.
yeah.
Okay.
That is more of Torment.
So-
Yeah, it was good. I did it the other day. It was fun.
Anyway, I like it because the special tab brings back monthlies, and I think that's great.
I agree.
I agree as
I
well.
didn't know that everyone didn't have monthlies until I was showing my UI to a friend, and they're like, "What's that?" I'm like, "What do you mean, what's that?"
Really?
That's a monthly thing.
Oh,
Yeah. I was
because I
like,
don't have the expansion.
No, because they didn't. They started later.
Oh.
Yeah.
They
back in the
removed
day,
month.
they
Yeah.
removed-
Yeah. Yeah, they used to have monthly achievements.
Yeah.
Oh, those. Okay, yeah, I don't know if I actually knew
Boomer
that
game
existed
is
as well.
confirmed. Yeah.
But I think with the special tab, they could probably add a couple more options with kind of what Boots was saying.
I think
that
so as well.
this
yeah.
round, it's so tied to the expansion, which I think for expansions it makes sense. But they probably could have added a couple other tabs for like PvP and World versus World. Because that is a quarterly system, not just monthly.
They want
so.
those. They want the bang of the Astral Acclaim in there for the expansion because that's the thing that's going to entice you to buy it to get that extra Astral Acclaim. That's the hook.
Yeah,
That's the hook to buy the expansion, right? Because that was the system where they said you can still use it, but if you get the expansion, you're going to get an extra. What is it? Like 800, 1,500. It's a lot. It's almost close to 1,500 Astral Acclaim. That's good.
There are quite a few hooks in this expansion. Easy sky scale, massive hook. I liked doing the season 4 stuff. People complain about it because of the grind of the tier 4 materials from the maps, which can be quite long. It feels long when you're doing it, especially if you're doing it after the fact and the maps aren't as populated as would be ideal to get some of the stuff done, because there's certain achievements that you have to. So I think that that's another massive hook. I think that
there should be many hooks for many different people.
That they're kind of lifting up their petticoats a bit with the vault and just showing a bit of thigh. Look at all the nice things that you could have, darling. Come on.
They have to.
They do, and there's nothing wrong with it. They have to pimp this bitch out, and I'm very happy.
I
love that they pimped. I love that they pimped this bitch out. I love it.
I got the legendary crafting thing, which is amazing. And I'm kind of struggling now because I'm still going for the AP and stuff, or the AA, and I don't really know what I'm gonna get next. Like some things are I'm just gonna probably get like mystic coins or clothes or something. I don't know, but like nothing really speaks to me after the legendary crafting kit.
The build expansions.
I've already purchased all. I need to get those.
Yeah, so I will get those, but what I would like maybe next time around is equipment slot expansions.
That would be really. That could be like 1,000. That could cost 1,000.
If it's 1,000, I would still go for it. It's
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'd be down. And
do you think they'll be switch? They could be switching them monthly. So one month a build, next month a gear.
Maybe. Maybe.
That would be.
I say just throw them all in. I think it's nice
Give
to
me a
have.
bank slot. Ooh.
It's nice to have a selection that is consistent throughout all of the Wizards Vault changes, but they just refresh in terms of the amount because you can only buy 2 build expansions. You can only buy 1 account expansion. But I think if there were those materials and those items that are always in the vault, that would at least be nice. So you could always kind of count on those, like Mystic Clovers, Mystic Coins, expansions.
Yeah, but obviously what they want to do is make sure this doesn't replace the Gemstar, where they make most of their money.
Yeah, which is smart that they limit the amount that you can purchase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to imagine that they've made a calculation. Sorry, thinking brain not working. That they're making most of their bang for their buck is coming from outfits and skins. Just the pretty side of it, and everyone I think is universally quite happy to do that, especially because of how fair the system is, how the fact that you can exchange in-game gold for gems, which is unique and fantastic for this game, which is really fair to gamers. As much as I've criticized the system in the past and I have bitched about it, it is still one of the fairest buy to play, free to play, no monthly subscription MMOs on the market. It really is. So, you can't whinge. I mean, I can whinge a lot, but you can't whinge too much about it. Try not to.
I think that's a good outro for the vault system. And to wrap up the show, honestly, I think that was a good one. This system is, yes. Yeah, sure, there's going to be some quirks and things that are going to work out. It's really not that bad. Like whoever said it about, I think Rook was saying about people raving about it and blah, blah, blah. I think sometimes that's just Guild Wars 2 players because the game's been for free forever and it gets people riled up because they're, a little bit keen. But that's okay, as long as they're happy in life, whatever.
Can I say one last thing?
Can I say one last questions please, and saying something extra?
I know, I'm so sorry. I just want to. I know, and it's going to be something nice as well, so it's off character.
Oh.
honestly, I'm a boomer gamer. I have been through many expansion releases. I have to say, this has been absolutely smooth as a baby's bottom compared to some of them. It's been so good, so unforked. I remember when there was a particular World of Warcraft expansion that like took down the servers for 2 days. It was just I think it was something to do with forts or bastion. Anyway,
Draenor.
It's been Jesus God, yeah. Yeah, this is our version of housing that breaks the game for a week. Yeah, no, that was amazing. But this has been so good. So totally hats off to the developers. Yeah. They've done such a fantastic job. It has been so smooth, so great, and we forget that most games have load screens. You can be in a queue waiting to get into 14. You can be in a queue waiting to get into World of Warcraft. No queues with the Guild Wars 2. It's like they spin up the servers they need. There's huge amounts of like fantastic behind the scenes magic behind the curtain that goes on to make it smooth like this. So thank you guys very much. I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah, it's been so fun. We're going to be able to give many more opinions about whether or not we're enjoying the expansion. I think we can probably all say we're enjoying it at the moment as well. And we'll talk more about that for sure in the future weeks. Thank you again for all of your feedback and awesomeness this week. Next week, we'll probably dip into... We'll see where we get. With some of us haven't completed the story yet. I've not got very far myself. So I want to try and complete that before we really delve into the later maps. But we do have the map meta from Amnitas to talk about, which is very fun. We still have a story to talk about. We still have weapons that are coming as well. So what we might do is next week, maybe we'll dip into the weapons. Maybe we'll dip back into weapons and talk about the weapon design stuff. We'll see.
I have homework.
So you've already
excited
done that.
To talk about Frank. Frank is amazing.
And
love Frank.
Frank
Great
is
guy.
amazing.
Excellent.
He is.
He's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're gonna go. Boots, that's what you do. What you do it.
Boots. You can find me at World of Vendors on YouTube, and I make videos usually about Guild Wars 2.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I just remembered. You can actually also find information about Boots on the Guild Wars 2 Wikipedia.
No.
Yeah. Boots has an item in game in case anybody missed it. So go check that out. And yeah, look them up.
Oh, yeah. Do it for sure.
True. Immortalized Boots. Yeah.
Boots in the game.
Boy.
Awesomeness. Okay.
Did you get your foot measurements when they were making that?
No, they did not. They are very large.
They are humongous, awesome boots. They deserve the size they have. You know what they say about big boots, don't you? Anyway, Rookery, tell us what you're doing. What are you doing? Wow. I can't believe no one made that joke yet.
Hi, I'm Rookery.
Wow, Kroof, come on. You've heard of this, surely.
Kroof, do you know what they say about people that wear big boots?
Big shoe size? No?
They got big toots.
Wow.
Yes, they fart loudly and a lot. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
They got smelly ass feet. I don't know.
That's it. You got it. Yeah, you got it. Don't worry. We'll tell you when you're older.
What are you talking about?
Hi, I'm Rook, aka Rookery. That's ROOKURI. I'm a variety MMORPG streamer, caster, podcaster, host, YouTuber. Pod racer? Not yet. I wish in my dreams when the technology gets there, maybe. If I'm still alive somehow. But you can find me on my own
channel. You'll be in the fractal
channel.
somewhere, don't worry.
There we go. You can find me on my own channel, twitch.tv Rookery. You can find me on YouTube at Rookery. And you can also find me on Twitter, which I will never refer to by its dumb new name, at Rookery_. So, I will also be live tomorrow morning and Sunday over on the official Final Fantasy XIV channel, casting the CCRCEU in Oceania. It's going to be bright and early. My time, it starts at 8 a.m. I think it starts even earlier the next day, so keep an eye out. Keep an eye out on the schedule. Check on it.
Check on your eyes, and then check on that.
Check on it if you haven't.
CCRUCU stand for?
It's the Crystalline Conflict Regional Championship, Europe and Oceania.
Wow.
Yeah, it's PvP. 14 PvP, but it's gonna be a lot of fun, and it'll catch you up on everything and get you introduced to all the teams before we have the semifinals and finals at FanFest next month.
Awesomeness. And if you're watching this and it's been done, you can probably go watch the VODs on Twitch as well, people. Kroof, tell us what you do and where you do it.
Hi everyone, I'm a new Guild Wars 2 player. I just started playing this game about a couple weeks ago, and I've already made great headway. I think people have claimed that I was like the fastest rising Guild Wars 2 player in the community, and I'm just really honored about that, and really thankful that I've gotten so much support from the community and my YouTube and everything. I'm just really honored and privileged. Don't worry, I'll remember you all when I'm, Hollywood star.
Massively famous.
At the time being, I just have a YouTube that I just started a week ago too. I don't know how that,
You're doing pretty well.
Much. And yeah, you can find me over there. I make some Guild Wars 2 videos. I'm probably gonna make some lifestyle blog videos about how it is to just, be such a rising star in this community. And I don't have big feet. I'm a size 7. But thanks for having me on. It was great to meet you all today.
Yeah, good to meet you as well, Kroof, for the first time. Great first impression, by the way.
Kroof, here at our first meeting, I just want to say, it's not all about the size. You know what I mean?
It's not the size.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's about how you walk. Is it heel to toe? Is it toe to heel?
Oh my God, this is...
You have good arch support.
Baby, I got the archiest arch in the game.
This is actually great. This is actually
My
great.
arch rivals Araz's arches. How about them apples? How about them apples?
Sweetie, as long as you have a prehensile tongue, you'll be fine.
Kroof was born under a wandering star.
I don't know what that means, but yes.
Fornax, tell us what you do.
I am. Oh, fuck it. Here's the thing. There you go. I'm on YouTube. There you go. Thank you.
Wandering. Okay. Maybe me and Fornax are in the same boat. Sorry. Start again.
No, I'm serious. That was it. I'm Fornax.
Oh,
I'm on
okay.
YouTube. That's fine. Thank you for having me. Sorry for being inappropriate.
Mate. Yes. You're an awful person.
True.
Everyone is awful on this podcast. If you would like to follow me and what I do, twitch.tv/JebroUni every Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific mostly. And if we're not here on the podcast, you can probably check us out on our YouTubes or whatever else we do, doing the things. If you want to come check me out on the weekend, I'll be doing bits and bobs. There's lots of games to play, so we've got to play some Starfield, we've got to play some Baldur's Gate, we've got to play some Wayfinder, Jesus, New World, and the other 10 games that are currently on my watch list of things we need to do. But I would appreciate it if you chuck us a follow. You go and check out everyone, wonderful people in the description as well. If you want to support them monetarily, potentially they get a bit of a kickback when you use their link for the expansion as well in the description. So make sure you do that if you want to support a content creator. You should do that when you buy the expansion. They're all official Rednet partners. Go and check them out now. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon for episode 3 of the Lightbringers podcast. See you soon. Thank you very much. And don't forget to take your shoes off when you come in next time, because you left a bit of a mess. Terrible.
We exploded everywhere. It was a mess.
Exploded everywhere. On the floor. We're all magic inside us, apparently. Anyway, bye.